Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is a story about what if neglected Naruto x Cynthia Pokemon. Before I start, please support for more amazing content, and do consider subscribing to my channel and share this video with your friends. This is written by KPX12, link in description and support writer. Let's start the video. That being said, Pokemon attacks and abilities are in bold. A blonde boy, barely 7 years old, was lost in the forest. Tears were running down his face, just like he was, across the forest. He didn't know what happened? Or how did he end up here, but one thing was for sure. He needed to get out of here fast or Pokemon will attack him and eat him up. He closed his eyes. It was not like he could see anything in the dark. It was full moon night, but the trees blocked any kind of moonlight. With the amount of effort he was putting in his running, he tripped and fell down a little slope. He finally opened his eyes and looked around, checking his surroundings before he took a look at himself. His knee was scrapped. It was hurting, but nothing like he couldn't handle. He was startled when he heard loud explosions coming from his left side. With the curiosity getting the best of him, he decided to check what it was all about. It was something that scared him worse than the forest he was in. Two Pokemons were fighting each other. One shadow-like, with white fog-like head, scarcely visible in the dark. It was like the dark of the night was his alley, his shadow stretching to impossible lengths. The other had a swan-like body. It was blue, with yellow underside and pink-colored wings, which looked more like rings. Those two were undeniably powerful if the amount of explosions and the damage to the surrounding area was anything to go by. The Dark-type Pokemon, though he didn't know the actual type, charged up and fired a move at the Light Asterisk-type Pokemon, which was easily dodged. The move, it felt horrible to Naruto. The second Pokemon charged a well-known move, Hyper Beam, and struck the Dark one. It seemed that the Dark Pokemon was already injured from all of the fighting and could not dodge quickly. Two rings of white light surrounded the Light Pokemon, and then formed a sphere in front of it and shot it at the already down Dark Pokemon. When it confirmed that the Dark type will not get up, it left. Naruto approached the defeated Pokemon, his fear forgotten, now replaced with worry for the floored Pokemon. He walked slowly towards the Dark Pokemon and carefully checked if it was still conscious. It wasn't. It was injured, bruises and cuts covered its body. Naruto cautiously pulled out a hanky from his pocket and started cleaning him. He realized it was futile and needed some water. Naruto picked the downed Pokemon and somehow dragged it to the base of the tree and hid it with some bushes. He left to find some source of water. After walking around for some time, he finally found what he was looking for. A small stream of water. He dipped his hanky and returned to the Pokemon he was hiding. He cleaned the wounds as much as he could and then returned to the water body. He repeated the procedure several times and finally cleaned all the wounds. He was tired of all the running he did and finally fell down next to it, sleep almost immediately consuming him. He woke to some Pokemon chirping. He realized it was late morning. His stomach made a loud noise and he sighed. He had not eaten since lunch yesterday. He needed to find something to eat for himself and the Pokemon. When it woke up, his dry throat reminded he needed some water too. He picked himself up and walked slowly towards the stream of water he found in the night. Now he could really see how beautiful it looked in the daylight. Few water Pokemon he didn't recognize were playing in it even. He looked around for something to carry water with, to the Dark Pokemon, and he was in luck because he did find a large enough hollow log to fill with water. He did just as planned and found some bushes with berries and decided to take some with him. He just hoped they were eatable and did not have some side effects. He returned to the spot where he had hidden the Dark Pokemon and thought it was time for him to wake it up. He wished it wouldn't be startled upon seeing him. He took some water from the log and sprinkled it on its face. The Dark Pokemon woke up with a start but grimaced with pain. The fight with the other Pokemon had damaged it more than it thought. The Pokemon, of course, looked up to see a child, a human child no less, sitting beside it. And by the looks of it, he was the one to sprinkle water on its face. It began growling, which put the blonde child on edge. "Are you the one to throw water on my face?" it said with a menacing voice. The blonde boy was really surprised that the Pokemon was capable of human speech. Having been never coming across such a Pokemon, he was amazed. "Wow, you can talk. So cool," he exclaimed. The Pokemon couldn't even cover its ear. Does it even have ears? So they were ringing with the unexpectedly loud voice. The boy sure have some lungs on him, it thought. "What are you doing here?" it asked again, then looked around and found himself surrounded with some bushes as if the boy was trying to hide it. "What happened here?" "You and some other Pokemon were fighting last night. It was so cool, but you got injured and lost. You were unconscious," he said, struggling with the big words, "so I dragged you here. I looked around for some water, but didn't want it to leave you unprotected, so I hid you in the bushes and then cleaned your wounds. Then I was too tired to do anything, so I slept. But I got up early and got us some food and water," he said, pointing to the hollow log filled with water and few berries in his hands. Whatever the Pokemon was expecting, it was not this, but he thanked the boy nonetheless. "Thank you for the help, but I need to get going." He stood up, with some noticeable efforts, and started to float towards some random direction. "Hey, wait up!" the boy exclaimed. "Where are you going?" he asked, showing concern on his face. It surprised the dark Pokemon, it had never met such a human before. "What is it to you?" the Pokemon asked. Naruto was suddenly nervous and laughed a little. "You see, I am lost and have no idea where to go." The Pokemon decided to return the favor and pointed him to direction towards the nearest town. The boy thanked the Pokemon and started walking towards the direction given to him. The dark Pokemon turned around and started floating in the opposite direction. Only a few seconds later there was a loud scream and a lot of flying-type Pokemon screeching. He sighed and decided to help the little one that has helped it not a long while ago. He charged a dark pulse and fired it at flying-type Pokemons, making them scatter. The boy was already running and didn't even bother to look back. He sighed and started following him, without being seen. The boy reached the town and from there asked Officer Jenny the direction of Sangem Town, where Professor Rowan's lab was located. The kind officer took pity on the lost boy and dropped him off to where he was going. Naruto was in Professor Rowan's lab before the sundown. He quietly opened the door but was surprised to see his adoptive uncle already there, glaring at him. Now, Professor Rowan may look a little bit intimidating but is actually quite mild-tempered and kind. But the moment boy eyes met him, he knew he was in trouble. A lot of trouble. "Naruto, would you explain what happened and where you were since yesterday?" he said. His voice was stern, instead of usual gentle. That sealed the deal, he was officially mad at him. The boy now named Naruto began sweating. "You see, I was wandering around, chasing a Pokemon when I got lost and didn't know where to go." He signed and resigned to his fate. He knew he was up for a severe tongue lashing. "Some time later I ran into some Pokemon, and they pointed me towards the nearest town, then Officer Jenny dropped me here." He dropped his head. Rowan didn't know what to say to that. On one hand he was extremely angry that Naruto recklessly ran behind a Pokemon, on the other hand he was happy that the boy returned unharmed, from wherever he was lost. He shook his head, it was not for him to decide, and he will let his mother deal with him. "I don't know what to do with you, Naruto, so I will let your mother deal with you," said the professor. The blonde paled at the thought. While everyone knew his mother, Sangem Town's Nurse Joy was a kind woman, but Naruto knew she had a fiery temper when it came to handle him. He had done some pretty stupid things in his small life and was punished for it after all. He didn't get the chance to think of some excuse before Nurse Joy came running in and embraced Naruto. He was about to say something when he noticed his mother was crying. Now he felt like a jerk, his mother was worried sick about him, and here he was foolishly chasing a Pokemon to an unknown location. "I'm sorry, Mom. I won't do it again. I'm so sorry." He apologized softly, embracing his mother. His mother held on to him and cried for a few more minutes, before finally calming down. "Please don't do that again, Naruto. I don't know what I would do without you." She spoke softly, still sniffing. "I promise, Mother, I won't," he said, as he wiped his mother's tears. Nurse Joy looked at him. Her eyes were red from all the crying and face still wet from tears. "I know how much you love to learn more about Pokemons, so I have decided." She took a deep breath to calm her raging nerves. "Professor Rowan is going to different regions to learn from different professors, and at last will head to Kanto region to study under Professor Oak, and you, Naruto, are going to go with him." Both Professor and the boy were shocked to hear that. They couldn't understand how she was allowing him to go with the professor when she had refused all other time before. "But Mother," he didn't get to finish before he was interrupted by his mother. "No, Naruto, it's not your punishment," she said with an exhalation. "I know how much you love Pokemon, and want to learn more about them or see a new species, so you will accompany him." She hugged him once again. Naruto returned the gesture and agreed. "I will, Mother, and thank you," he said quietly, thanking his mother. Naruto knew how much his mother loved him, and never allowed him out of her sight. For her to let Naruto go would be too painful for her, and the boy understood the fact clearly. Naruto was sitting in the backyard garden, watching all the Pokemon play and compete with each other. All he ever wanted was for his mother to allow him to learn new things by journeying across the region, but she refused every time, arguing that he was too young, which he admitted he was. But now that he knew that his dream was coming true, it felt hollow somehow. He was so lost in his thoughts that he didn't notice someone sneaking behind him until it spoke. "Something troubling you?" it asked. Naruto was startled out of his thoughts by the deep-sounding voice. He jerked his head around and noticed the same Pokemon he had helped last night. Why are you here? Naruto asked. He was surprised to see the dark Pokemon again. I was just going my way, when I heard you screaming and decided to follow you to make sure you reach where you were going safely. It said, surprising even itself with the answer. I thank you? He didn't know what to say to that. He was grateful that it decided to follow him, otherwise it would be difficult to say at least, to reach his hometown. Name's Naruto by the way, he said. I am Darkrai. It said simply, without disclosing any other information about itself. Who was the other one you were fighting that night? And why were you fighting? He was curious as to why they were fighting in the first place. The other Pokemon you saw was Cresselia. We are arch-enemies, we fight each other all the time. This time I was already wounded from my previous battle, so she thrashed me around. It said while it was bitter to accept that he lost, it was due to his earlier combat. So you are trying to say that you would have won if you hadn't been already injured? He asked, knowing that pride may not allow them to accept that. I don't know. It said straightforwardly. We are equal in terms of power and abilities, so the fight could have gone either way. It admitted. So then, why are you so down? Naruto's face immediately dropped and looked away before answering. I was chasing down some Pokemon. When I got lost, then you know the rest. It's just that my mother was so worried about me. Now she wants me to travel with Uncle Rowan to the different regions and learn more about Pokemons. It has always been my dream, but that's now how I wanted to do it. The boy said, his voice barely a whisper. But the dark-type Pokemon heard him clearly. Maybe, maybe not. It started, but time has already passed for you to worry about that. You have been given the chance you wanted all your life. Now the question is, will you take it or let it go? It asked. Naruto pondered the situation again. Sure, it was not under the greatest circumstances that happened, but why not make the most out of it? He took a deep breath, calming himself, and finally smiled. You are right. I should not waste this opportunity. He said, but got a fantastic idea. Hey, why don't you come with me? We could learn so much from other and maybe then you could beat that Pokemon. He tried to coax it to join him, but the Pokemon saw right through the act, but before he could respond, it noticed something which made it stop. The boy, no, Naruto was just like it, a loner. Sure, he had people who cared about him, but he was without friends. No one could connect to him at such a personal, like a friend, just like it. He was so desperate to make a friend, no matter human or Pokemon, that he was practically ready to do anything to please them. All right. I will do it. It said. Thank you, the boy said. He didn't expect the Pokemon to actually accept his offer. He was grateful nonetheless. It was his first friend in a long time, well, lifetime. Tomorrow morning. Naruto was getting ready for his trip in the other regions, packing his clothes and other necessary items when he heard footsteps coming towards. Looking up, his mother was coming with something in her hands, wrapped up in the gift paper, with some other items. Hey sweetie, I have some things for you. Here, this is for you. She gave him a large item wrapped in gift paper. And here are some Pokeballs for you, when you are ready to start your journey. She said, giving him a strained smile, trying to look happy for him. Well, open it up. She pointed towards the wrapped up item. Naruto gently picked up the item and carefully removed the wrapping. Inside was an egg, more specifically, a Pokemon egg. Naruto was surprised. His mother was giving him a Pokemon egg, let alone considering it. His surprise must have been evident on his face, because his mother gave him a warm smile and said, I know what you must be thinking, but Professor Rowan are going to be there with you to take care of the egg, so I think I can trust you with such a great responsibility. And one more thing, this egg is from the Kalos region, so some professors would like to study it a bit. Naruto just nodded, not sure what to really say, but was happy that his mother trusted him so much. He put all the extra things in his bags and picked up the egg before giving his mother a one-armed hug. The nurse returned the embrace and few tears fell from her eyes. They remained like that for nearly a minute and then headed to Professor Rowan's laboratory. The mother-son duo was walking in a comfortable silence and reached the lab few minutes later. Professor Rowan was already there with some other girl, who looked to be 10-year-old. Professor noticed both Naruto and Nurse Joy approaching him and waved his hand in greeting. Hey there Naruto, Nurse Joy. Naruto returned the wave while Joy gave his a small smile, but it was the boy who spoke. Hello Uncle Rowan, who is she? The blonde asked as he pointed towards the girl. She was blonde, wearing yellow-colored dress. He was never actually good with telling their different garments apart. Nurse Joy just sighed. Naruto, it's impolite to point. Before looking at the girl. I'm sorry, looks like I still have to teach him some manners. She gave him a glare that had him sweating. Naruto. Apologize. Now. Naruto quickly bowed his head in an apologetic manner. I am sorry, he said. It was easier to just agree with his mother, than suffer punishment later. The girl just smiled at him, not at all minding his initial rudeness. She put out her hand. I'm Cynthia, I'm just starting as a trainer. Naruto stared at her for a moment and smiled in return. So have you already decided which Pokemon you are going to choose? He asked the fellow blonde. I'm not here to get a Pokemon, you see, I already have one showing him her Pokeball. I'm here to register as trainer and then be off on my way. Naruto was not really surprised to hear that. While not common, it was not that rare either. So you already have a Pokemon, huh? Can I see it? Cynthia smiled at his eagerness and pulled out a Pokeball. She pressed the button on the table. Tennis-sized ball, and it soon became baseball-sized and a red light escaped from it. Come on out, Gibble, she said, and came out the ground/dragon-type Pokemon. Naruto was excited to see the pseudo-legendary type Pokemon. It was his first time seeing that particular species. Even though it was not uncommon to spot them in wild, Naruto was rarely let out on his own. Wow, so cool, he exclaimed. The small Pokemon let out a happy noise, jumping all the while. I'm glad you think so. Then she noticed a Pokemon egg in his hand. It seems you have a Pokemon egg. And the one I'm not familiar with, she said. Naruto gave her a big smile. He was always happy to talk about Pokemon. It's from the Kalos region. Even I am not sure which Pokemon will come out of it. At that exact moment, Professor Rowan came out of the room or lab, whatever, and gave Cynthia her Pokédex. It was dark blue and purple in color. Now, Cynthia, you are all set. From now on, you are a registered trainer, the professor said, smiling. Cynthia accepted the device and immediately it was turned on. Hi, I'm a Pokédex programmed by Professor Rowan for Pokemon trainer Cynthia of the town of Celestic. My function is to provide Cynthia with information and advice regarding Pokemon and their training. If lost or stolen, I cannot be replaced. A voice came from the device. Cynthia closed the handheld device and pocketed it along with 5 other Pokeballs. She returned Gibble to his Pokeball and then said goodbye and left. Naruto stared at her back for some time and decided then and there, I too am going to become a trainer soon, well, as soon as I can, that is. Professor Rowan smiled at his words. I'm sure you would. Now are you ready for your journey? He asked. Naruto, who was nearly jumping with joy, returned the smile and answered, I'm ready when you are. Rowan didn't waste it any more time and said goodbye to his assistants while also giving them a last-minute advice and instruction. He picked up his bag and made his way towards the car which was waiting for them outside. The Pokemon professor hopped in the car and Naruto quickly joined him on the second seat. Both said goodbye to their friends, assistants, in Professor's case, and Mother, in Naruto's case. When the car finally zoomed out of view, did Nurse Joy stopped waving and left for the Pokemon Center. When they had been driving for at least few hours, Naruto finally asked, Where are we going, Uncle Rowan? Rowan kept his focus on the task at hand but answered, We are first going to Celestic Town. I have to collect some research documents, and then to Hearthome City, where we will take the plane to the Hoenn region. The blonde was surprised to hear that. I thought we were going to Kanto region because you wanted to study under Professor Oak. Rowan then answered, Yes, we will go there, eventually. But first, we will make a few stops, along the way in each region, so I can meet different professors and share knowledge among us. Rowan smiled and looked at the boy. Don't worry, Naruto, think of this as an opportunity. You will learn a lot about Pokemon of different regions and what the professors of the region specializes in. Naruto was excited at the prospect of learning more about Pokemon, but at the same time he liked Onhan's approach, not reading from books. He was silent for the rest of the journey, while carefully holding the egg he was given and examining it. It was unlike any other egg he had ever seen, and while learning from Uncle Rowan he had seen a lot of them. His mother did said it was from the Kalos region, but Naruto took this as a challenge. He will learn all there is to learn about the egg and the Pokemon, even if he had to go to the region himself. Naruto was so lost in his thoughts that he didn't notice when the information about the Pokemon and the egg started flowing in his head. His eyes turned red for the moment but went unnoticed by both of them. The blonde was surprised when he realized that he already somehow knew whose egg this was. He shook his head. He will think about this some other time. Now was not the time, as they had already reached their destination. Some time later, on the way to Hearthome City, Naruto was introduced to Professor Carolina, who he later learned was Cynthia's grandmother, and also the one who gave her Gibble. She was very outspoken and cared for her grandmother very much and was very proud of her. Professor Rowan didn't waste any time in getting the documents he wanted, and then both the professor and the blonde started off for their real journey. They were currently going to Hearthome City, from where they would take the airplane to the Hoenn region. After some hours of driving, they finally arrived their destination. It was still few hours before sundown, so Naruto decided to look around town a bit. Home City, Naruto knew, was fifth largest city in the world, but he was quite annoyed with all the noise and traffic and settled for a peaceful clearing. It was not far, just a few minutes walk away from the main road. He settled against a tree and picked out a sandwich his mother had packed for him. Suddenly the dark Pokemon appeared in front of him. "So this is where you were," he stated. Naruto was startled at first but quickly settled, knowing it was just Darkrai. "Yeah, I wanted some peace and a break from all the traveling." He extended his other sandwich to the Pokemon, to which he accepted. They both were sitting in silence when they heard a loud noise coming from some distance, and decided to check it out. Several Zangoose were attacking a Chimchar. He was about to interfere when the small fire type activated his ability Blaze and charged a super-powered flame wheel. It took out almost all of them, but two were still remaining and were growling at it. Chimchar was too tired to continue and was injured. The Zangoose was about to pounce at him when he shouted, "Darkrai, Dark Pulse." The Dark type didn't know why, but it compelled to the boy's command and fired the Dark Pulse at the remaining normal type Pokemon, scaring them and making them run away. Naruto then approached Chimchar and noticed how it flinched. He lifted his hand to show that he was not going to do anything to it, and gently picked it up from the ground and ran to the nearest Pokemon Center. He was getting some weird looks from the people, who saw him carrying an injured Pokemon. He reached Home City Pokemon Center a few minutes later and immediately approached Nurse Joy. "Hey, Nurse Joy," he nearly shouted. "I found this Chimchar like this, can you please help him?" Nurse Joy took the Pokemon from his hand and without any delay, proceeded on to the hospital room. All she said to him was to wait here. The boy was worried about the small fire-type Pokemon. He waited for quite some time when Nurse Joy finally appeared, bringing Chimchar with him. When she was the boy, she smiled and said, "Your Chimchar is fine, he wasn't injured much but was very tired after using Blaze. All you have to do now is take it easy for a day or two and he can finally begin training again." After hearing that, Naruto sighed in relief. But the pink-haired nurse frowned. "Aren't you too young to be a Pokemon trainer though?" she asked. Naruto chuckled and replied, "It's not really my Pokemon, as I am not a trainer yet, but I found him at a state like this and immediately bring him to the Pokemon Center." "So now what are you going to do with him, oh dear nephew of mine?" she asked playfully. Naruto was surprised to hear that. "Your nephew? You know about me?" The nurse giggled at his expression. "Of course, silly, all of us Joy know about you, and why wouldn't we? One of our sister has a son." Naruto smiled at that. He didn't know why, but the thought of his extended family really made him happy. Like it was what he craved all his life, but he knew he was never alone, so these kinds of thought was really confusing at times. "So, do all of the Nurse Joy know me, or just this region's?" he asked. The nurse was thoughtful for a moment before she answered. "I don't know," she admitted. "But I think all of the Sinnoh region's Nurse Joy know you. You will have to find out for yourself, I guess." She gave him a real warm smile before asking, "So what are you going to do with him?" pointing towards the chimp Pokemon. "I'm not a Pokemon trainer yet, but I'm sure Uncle Rowan wouldn't mind him coming with us, if he really wants to." He looked directly at the fire-type Pokemon. "Do you want to come with us?" The small Pokemon was really happy that someone was asking him to come with them and accepted without much thought. Naruto pulled out a Pokeball from his backpack and captured Chimchar. "Well, now that's out of the way, I really need to get going or Uncle Rowan would be worried about me. It was nice meeting you, Aunt Joy," he said. The nurse dropped to his height level and hugged him. Naruto was taken aback for a moment before they returned the embrace. "Bye," she said softly. The boy nodded, smiled and left. He was in deep thoughts. As he was returning to the hotel, he was staying for the night with his uncle. His was debating on the matter, whether or not he should tell him, his uncle, about the Pokemon he had caught. In the end he decided against it. If he found out, well, he would not find out until they reach Hoenn. He hoped. After spending more than 4 hours on the plane, Naruto was more than ready to jump off, if it didn't land soon. Fortunately, the plane landed only few minutes later. Naruto immediately made his way out of the flying machine. It was no fun just sitting around for 4 hours, doing nothing. At least he had some books on Hoenn Pokemons. While not his favorite pastime activity, it helped a lot. The blonde boy and the Sinnoh's professor both left the airplane. Professor Birch was already there in his SUV waiting for both of them. Professor smiled at seeing his colleague, and waved his hand in greeting. Professor Birch, Naruto noticed, was quite casual, wearing khaki shorts and dark blue t-shirt under usual lab coats. He greeted both of them and signaled them to hop in. Professor Rowan and Naruto joined, and both the elder man were soon engaged in their small talk. The blonde was still holding on to the Pokemon egg, which was an incubator. He didn't know how he knew what Pokemon's egg was that. Sure, Professor Rowan had asked his colleague from the Kalos region and had collected all the data of their regional Pokédex, and now knew that it was a Froakie egg. He didn't even realize when they reached Professor Birch's lab, and Uncle Rowan had to shake him to get him out of his thoughts. He shook his head and followed them inside the lab. Professor Birch's assistant was there welcoming them. Naruto tiredly put his backpack down and sat on the bed, which was given to him for the duration of his stay in Hoenn. He pulled Chimchar's Pokeball out and decided what he was going to do now. No doubt sooner or later Uncle Rowan would find out, so it was no point in hiding him. He wanted to train the Fire-type Pokemon so that when it was time for him to start his journey, he would be ready. He pressed the button on the Pokeball and called him out. He had to feed him after all. The small Fire-type looked around before setting his eyes onto his blonde trainer. At the moment both their stomach made sound. He sighed. He too hadn't eaten much before and during the journey. "Let's go and get something to eat, Chimchar." His Pokemon nodded and followed his trainer out of the room. They spotted Professor Birch's assistant, Joshua, feeding the starter Pokemon that were given to the new trainer of the Hoenn region. "Mr. Joshua," he said, gaining the attention of the assistant. "Can you give my Chimchar and me some food too?" he asked. Joshua smiled at the little boy and nodded. "Of course, Naruto. By the way, I haven't seen that Pokemon before. Who is it?" He took out a bowl from the compartment and filled it with Pokemon food and placed it in front of the Fire-type. Naruto motioned for the chimp Pokemon towards the food while he answered. "He is Chimchar, a Fire-type Pokemon. He is one of the starter of the Sinnoh region, along with Grass-type Turtwig and Water-type Piplup." Joshua was watching the Pokemon intently. He, just like any other in his field of profession, loved to learn more about different types of Pokemon. He himself wanted to specialize in Pokemon habitat and their behavior. It was one of the reasons B became Professor Birch's assistant. Naruto too was watching starter Pokemon of the Hoenn region. If he was right, they were Torchic the Fire-type, Treecko the Grass-type, and Mudkip the Water-type Pokemon. He was still watching them when his tummy screamed for his attention. Second time. He sighed again. "I think I too need some food," he said. Joshua laughed nervously. The boy had asked him for some food for his Pokemon, and for himself after all. "Just give me a second and I will get you something to eat." After have a quick lunch, he and Chimchar decided to go out and explore. He reached near a pond and thought it would be a good place for his training, as this place had a lot of water. If things got out of hand, water would be available in a second. "Alright, Chimchar. It's time for your training," he said. "You and I are going to run several laps around this lake to build up stamina, and then we will focus on your moveset." The Fire-type nodded and joined his trainer. After completing 10 laps around the lake, both were tired and decided to take a few minutes break. Naruto pulled few berries from his pockets and gave them to Chimchar. "It will help you regain your energy," he said, and the Pokemon tiredly ate them. He instantly felt some of his energy returning and slowly filling him. "Now why don't we work on your moves?" The Fire-type nodded his head, got ready for a tedious workout. Few hours later, evening time. Naruto and the Fire-type Pokemon worked on Kaimakar's Fire-type move, namely Ember and Flamethrower, and his dig, and needless to say, he improved quite a lot. When both were so tired that even walking was tiresome, they decided to call it a day. Naruto noticed that the sun was about to set and thought it was time to return. He recalled Chimchar in his Pokeball. He was satisfied with the amount of progress he had in a single day. When he reached the lab, he noticed that both Professor Birch and Rowan had returned and were talking to Joshua, and the assistant was talking about him, specifically his Chimchar. Naruto sighed. It was time for another tongue lashing. He prepared himself and entered the lab. Rowan noticed him immediately and walked towards him. "Naruto, Joshua was telling me about you and your Chimchar. Mind telling me when and how exactly you got a Pokemon?" he asked, but it was more like he demanded the answer. Naruto gulped. The tone at which Uncle Rowan was talking made him nervous. He rubbed the back of his head and laughed a little. "You see, I was just walking in the little forest in Hardhome City when I found him injured and lying on the ground. So I decided to help him out and took him to a Pokemon Center. After that he chose to follow me, so I thought why not, and here he is," he said cheerfully as he pulled out his Pokeball and called out his Pokemon. "Chimchar." The little Pokemon blinked, confused, as to why his trainer had called him out. "Meet Uncle Rowan, Chimchar." And he pointed towards other professor and his assistant are Professor Birch and Mr. Joshua. The chimp Pokemon waved his hand a little in greeting, which Professor Birch and Joshua returned. Professor Rowan, however, And why is this the first time I had heard about him? Naruto bended his head downward. I thought if you knew about him, you wouldn't let me keep him. The old Pokemon professor heaved a sigh. Naruto, if he wants to be so much with you, then you can keep him. But remember, it is a great responsibility, and you will have to take care of his every need. Naruto's face instantly brightened. It was like a switch turned on. Of course I will take care of him, isn't that right, Chimchar? Chimchar nodded happily, obviously pleased with his trainer's word. Char Chimchar. Rowan smiled at the little boy's enthusiasm. Alright, you can keep him. Yada! Screamed the boy with joy as he punched his hand up in the air, a move which was mirrored by his Pokemon. Few days later. Studying and training in Hoenn was going on nicely in Naruto's opinion. He couldn't be any happier with the way things were going. He would study under Professor Birch in the morning, play with Chimchar in the afternoon in the wild, and train him in the evening. Darkrai came and visited time to time before disappearing to Arceus nowhere. He did help in training Chimchar though, being the experienced one. His Chimchar had already learned Brick Break, Flame Charge, and was now working on Overheat. He had checked his progress with Joshua's Pokédex and learned that he was on level 12 and was ready to evolve after 2 more levels. Now why don't we go fight some wild Pokemon? It will not only give you some experience but also the push needed to evolve, he had said to his Pokemon, who just nodded happily, eager to evolve. So basically that was what they were going to do today. When they were finally free for the day, after finishing homework given to him and playing in the afternoon, they left in search of some wild Pokemon. They were wandering from place to place in search of some wild Pokemon. They spotted some flying time Pokemon, but decided they were too far away to target. They came close to a pond and noticed a wild Mudkip, just sitting, resting in peace. Naruto felt a little bad, but he wanted to catch a Pokemon to extend his team. Alright Chimchar, we are going to catch that Mudkip. The small fire type looked nervous. Don't be like that. I know it's a fire type, but we have trained a lot to lose now. They got a little close before Naruto ordered his Pokemon to attack. Flamethrower. A torrent of flame left Chimp Pokemon's mouth and contacted directly with the water-type Pokemon. It didn't take kindly to be attacked and retaliated with Water Gun attack. Chimchar dodged it with Dig, then Brick Break. Chimchar disappeared underground. The water-type looked around trying to find the fire-type. The Pokemon surfaced from the side of the water-type and hit it hard with a Brick Break. Now Flamethrower again. Chimchar again tried his signature move, but Mudkip proved to be more resilient than they thought originally and retaliated with Water Gun, which was far stronger than the previous one. It not only doused the flames but managed a critical hit on the fire type. Chimchar, are you okay? He nearly cried. The fire type looked injured but still got up, his determination to win pushing him to go on beyond his limits. Alright, Chimchar, we can still win this. Are you ready? He asked and got Chimchar in return from his Pokemon. This Mudkip is a lot tougher than it looks. While Flamethrower may not have done much damage, but it got direct hit by Brick Break and reacted fast enough to block a second one. Now what to do? Chimchar Ember, then Flamethrower. Chimchar released various embers and got another Water Gun in return. The fire type didn't let up and added more power to the attack. Steam rose from the exchange and visibility diminished. Now Flame Wheel. His Pokemon cried in affirmation and charged at the confused water type. Mudkip couldn't see from where his opponent was coming, but it hurled mud in every single direction. One did connected with Chimchar and forced him to stop. Fortunately, he was using Flame Wheel, so the damage was reduced, but it was effective nonetheless. The stem that present was slowly fading, and his Pokemon was visible again. Naruto gritted his teeth. This was a lot harder than he had thought. They played, they trained, they learned new moves, but nothing was enough to take down one single Pokemon. Sure, they were at type disadvantage, but it was not everything, as many trainer had proved before, he had watched in TV. So what can he do now? Chimchar was too tired, and as the battle progressed he was taking a lot of damage. I have to think of something fast. Otherwise I am going to lose. He looked around, anything he could do to gain advantage, but nothing came to his mind. He was running out of option and fast. Then an idea suddenly came to his mind. Chimchar, use area-wide Flamethrower and cover the whole ground, Naruto ordered. The small fire type did just that, and the whole area was covered in flames. Mudkip tried to put out the flames with his own water gun, but Chimchar had already superheated. This got the normally docile Pokemon to become enraged. It fired Mud Slap in and covered the whole ground and then targeted the fire-type Pokemon. Dodge Chimchar! He exclaimed. This Mudkip was smart, and was using his own technique against him. Chimchar dodged the mud slap but failed to notice a water gun headed his way and was hit. The small fire type was floored. Chimchar, are you alright? The blonde asked. Get up, I know you can do it, we have trained a lot to lose here. Chimchar, hearing encouraging words from his trainer, shakily got on his knees. His determination to win pushing him beyond his limits. He then suddenly started glowing. His form changed as new power flowed through his body. He grew in size a little. He tested out his arms and tried a few punch. Naruto was watching all of that with fascination. How his Chimchar finally evolved, how his form changed, how he grew up in height and was trying out a new move he instantly recognized as Mach Punch. Alright Monferno, you learned a new move, let's try it out. Mach Punch. Naruto exclaimed. Monferno's speed had increased too, it seemed, as he reached Mudkip far faster than before and hit the water type with Mach Punch. The mudfish Pokemon was thrown back a few feet. The boy didn't waste any time in throwing a Pokeball. It hit the water type Pokemon and sucked it inside. The ball clicked a few times and Naruto watched in anticipation. Ding! And with it the blonde had successfully captured his first Pokemon. Both the Pokemon and his trainer jumped around in joy when the fire type suddenly collapsed, tired from the ordeal. Naruto gave him a faint smile and returned him to his Pokeball and ran towards the lab. As usual, Professor Birch and Rowan were not there. Instead, Joshua was tending the Pokemons there and generally looking after the lab. Mr. Joshua! He yelled, startling the assistant and few of the Pokemons there. Guess what? My Chimchar evolved and I caught a Mudkip. He was too excited to calm down. Joshua was surprised to say, at least. While he preferred watching and taking care of Pokemon, he knew sometimes battling with them could be just as hard. He was forced out of his thoughts by the enthusiastic 7-year-old. Mr. Joshua, can you please check them if they are fine? The blonde boy asked. Of course, Naruto, just give me the Pokeballs. He took the Pokeballs from the 7-year-old and made his way towards the medical room. The boy followed him. They have started teaching him basics of first aid when they saw how fast he was learning from seeing them work, so Naruto was allowed in the medical room as long as nothing serious was going on, and he was accompanied by someone. Joshua checked them, they were fine and healthy. Minor cuts and bruises was nothing for Pokemon as they could handle far more. They would be right as rain in the morning, and their exhaustion will be gone too. They are fine, Naruto, and will be ready to train again in the morning. Oh yeah, can you check their level too? Sure Naruto, just give me a minute. He pulled out a device which looked out a lot like Pokédex, but the difference was it was issued only to professors and their assistants, as they could tell move of any Pokemon caught by them or not. He scanned his newly evolved Monferno first. And a mechanical voice droned out Monferno, the playful Pokemon and the evolved form of Chimchar. It controls its flaming tail to keep its opponent at an ideal distance when battling. This Pokemon is male, level 15, and known moves are Scratch, Ember, Mach Punch, Flame Wheel, Flamethrower, Fire Spin, Overheat and Brick Break. It has ability Blaze. Awesome! What about the other Pokemon? Naruto said. Joshua scanned his second Pokemon, and the same voice as before called out Mudkip, the mudfish Pokemon. Mudkip uses the sensitive radar receptors on its head fin to determine what's going on around it. In a pinch, it can brandish enough power to crush rocks. This Pokemon is male, level 12, and known moves are Tackle, Growl, Mud Slap and Water Gun. It has ability Torrent. This is one good Mudkip you got there, Naruto. It is healthy and will be able to join you in your training, said Joshua. Naruto, being the enthusiastic one, celebrated his success with his favorite dish ramen and invited both Professor Birch and Rowan and his assistant to celebrate his success in catching his first Pokemon. After a battle, that is. A full month later, starting of third month in Hoenn. It had been few days that Naruto had caught Mudkip, who joined them on their afternoon games and evening trainings. Darkrai still visited them from time to time and helped both Chimchar and Mudkip with their training. When the mudfish Pokemon had first seen the dark type, needless to say, he was scared. Every Pokemon living in the wild knows about legendary Pokemons. It helped both Monferno and Mudkip learn new moves and master their already known ones. Monferno had mastered Overheat, learned Double Team, and was currently working on Low Sweep. He had already learned Low Sweep, but it was hard to actually use it in a battle. Mudkip learned Whirlpool and was currently working on Hydro Pump. With the help of Naruto's training regime, they were both increasing their speed and general power behind the attack. The egg Naruto's mother had given him hatched few days later after catching Mudkip. As expected, it was Froakie, water-type starter of the Kalos region. He was like every other Pokemon of Naruto, was male. He joined Naruto, Monferno and Mudkip in their afternoon games, but Naruto refused to allow his to train with them in the evening as he was still too young. Unknown to Naruto, Froka was working behind his back and learned Bubble. Their training was going along nicely, and with Darkrai helping them time to time, they sure were coming along. With games, Pokemon training and many other tasks, Naruto never neglected his studies, and with his intelligence and knowledge surprised both the Pokemon Professor Birch and his assistant Joshua. He was amazingly knowledgeable for one so young and took great care of all of the Pokemon he came across, not just his. Now Naruto was addressing his team. Monferno and Mudkip stood in attention while Froka was behind them just playing. You know, my dream has always been to not only become a Pokemon master but to learn as much about them as possible. While acquiring that amount of knowledge will take a lot of time, I will start my Pokemon journey when I am 10 years old. To become a Pokemon master I need to have a team of at least 6 Pokemons to take part in any league. So we are going to add another one to our growing family. I have already decided which one I am going to catch. This Pokemon is grass type and live in a tree. I know which. So let's go and catch it. Both of his Pokemons give their affirmation in their own ways and started following Naruto to the small forest surrounding the lab. They reached a tree. Well, simple calling it a tree was understatement. It was huge. There were few grass-type Pokemons of the same species were living. You see that Pokemon? He asked, pointing towards the grass type. Both of his Pokemons shook their head in affirmation. This is Treecko, like you it is given to newbie trainers, along with fire-type Torchic. And we are going to catch it. He stated. There was not even a sliver of doubt in his statement. His both Pokemon were confident in their abilities too and loved their trainer enough to work hard for him. Alright Monferno, get ready for your second battle. The firefighting type Pokemon was excited by the prospect of fighting. Hey Treecko, he yelled, gaining their attention. My name is Naruto and I want to battle one of you to catch you. Is anyone willing to cooperate? He asked. Most of them scoffed at the boy's proclamation and denied him, but there was one who accepted his challenge. The Treecko looked young compared to the rest of his clan and had a branch of a tree in his mouth like a toothpick. You ready, Monferno? The playful Pokemon who loved to battle nodded his head, the flame in his tail growing stronger. Monferno, start with Flamethrower. The part fire-type Pokemon didn't react with words but unleashed a torrent of flames. These flames were hotter and larger than when he was Chimchar. Treecko was nervous, sure he wanted a good challenge, but he didn't realize how much powerful or fast the attack would be. He tried to dodge but got caught in some of the flames. And being the grass-type Pokemon he took extra damage from the fire. Monferno, now Mach Punch. Monferno raced towards the grass type, his hand glowing with energy. It was not fast enough to dodge, and had already taken damage from Flamethrower. A direct hit formed the Mach Punch sent him crashing onto the tree. But it tried to stand up but everybody present there could see he was on last legs. Naruto was impressed by the determination showed by Treecko and decided to end the fight quickly so as not to harm him any further. Using fire-based attack would not only hurt it badly but also the surroundings, so his option was obvious. Monferno, get in close and finish it with dual Mach Punch. Monferno. The dual firefighting type Pokemon got in close and hit the grass type with Mach Punch with both hands. It was powerful enough to knock it out. Naruto threw the Pokeball on the floored grass type, swallowing it in red light. The ball barely chimed 2 times before getting still, signifying the capture. Naruto picked up the Pokeball, thanked his Monferno, and they got back to the lab. This time, and probably the first time since they had come here, both the professors were in the lab and not in the wild, observing Pokemon. They noticed his arrival, both of his Pokemons on his side and a new Pokeball in his hand, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out the rest. Professor Rowan sighed. Now which Pokemon have you caught, Naruto? Naruto proudly pushed a button and called out his newly caught Pokemon. Come on out, Treecko. And came out the Hoenn grass-type starter, still slightly burned and tired from the fight. Well, he do needs a checkup. Birch gave a light laugh which was mirrored by Joshua's slight laugh, Naruto's grin and Uncle Rowan's big smile. You are right, let's patch him up, said Professor Birch this time. Mr. Joshua, will you scan it with the device? Asked Naruto. Sure, Naruto. Just give me his Pokeball, will you? Said the assistant. When scanning him, the device, a voice, mechanical in nature, droned out. Treecko, the wood gecko Pokemon. Treecko are able to climb smooth vertical walls and use their thick tail to attack opponents. Since Treecko build their nests in large trees, it is said that those trees will live a very long life. This Pokemon is male and is at level 7. Its known move is Pound and ability is Overgrow. It seems that this Pokemon is fairly young. Where did you find him, Naruto? Asked Uncle Rowan. I wanted to have a Treecko, ever since I have laid my eyes on one. And I know the one here would be reserved for a trainer, so I got out into the wild, with Monferno and Mudkip and caught him. He barely put up a fight against Monferno. He beat him without even trying. Well, as I said, he is fairly young. He still has a lot to learn. It was Professor Hoenn who said that. Yes, you are right, said the boy. But he got some serious determination. He got up even when he took a direct hit from Monferno's Mach Punch. After the grass type was all patched up and had eaten, he returned him to his Pokeball and went to his room to prepare for the next day. Next day, evening training session. Naruto was walking towards his usual evening training place. All of his Pokemons were in their Pokeballs. Soon as he reached the clearing, Naruto took all of the Pokeball, all called them out. Alright, everyone, time for evening training session. This time both Froakie and Treecko will be joining us. Monferno, I want you to teach Treecko some fighting time moves. Alright, all know is Pound. After he has learned Brick Break, we will start working on his speed. The fire type, give him a mock salute playfully, Monferno, he said. Naruto's eye twitched, but he let it slide. Mudkip, you help Froakie learn some water type moves. Mudkip nodded and took the Bubble Frog Pokemon with him to train. A couple hours later, both Treecko and Froakie were starting to get the hang of the moves they were taught. Treecko could cover his hand in white energy but was having trouble maintaining it. On the other hand, Froakie couldn't channel enough power to trigger Hydro Pump. He was sitting under the tree reading a book. If there was one thing different from learning from Professor than school, was that professors here took constant tests. And it was getting harder and harder to maintain his grades. He was also keeping an eye on his Pokemons, noticing progress. He was happy with their improvement. They were training daily to improve, and sometime Naruto joined them in their tasks. He was so lost in his reading that he was startled when a voice spoke just next to his ear. What are you reading? Asked the Dark-type Pokemon. Naruto jumped from his position. On hand was on his heart, trying to calm him down. How many times I have told you not to do that? He yelled. I swear you love spooking me. And for your information, I have a test in few days. The Dark-type Pokemon was amused, though it didn't show it in his face. You caught a new Pokemon, it stated. Yeah, I did. Just yesterday, in fact. Naruto said as he looked at the Grass-type Pokemon, who was struggling to complete the move he was given. He collapsed from the exhaustion but was still pushing himself to stand. He is still very young, though he has some determination. Hey Treecko, he yelled, gaining the attention of his only grass type. Why don't you take a break? Come over here, I want you to meet someone. Treecko was curious as to whom his trainer was referring but advanced towards him nonetheless. Treecko, this is Darkrai. He is my friend from the Sinnoh region and decided to travel with us. Treecko, who was still very young and didn't know of the legendary Dark type, so just stood there calmly and nodded in greeting. Darkrai returned the nod. Someone is coming, I have to go, it said. Now Treecko was in awe. He had never heard of any Pokemon capable of human speech who was not psychic, at least. Naruto turned and soon enough saw it was Joshua. Hey Naruto, time to head back, he yelled from the distance. The boy picked up his book and motioned his Pokemons to follow. Time skip, 2 days before leaving Hoenn. The year was coming to an end since Naruto had come to Hoenn with Professor Hoenn. His birthday had come and gone. He was 8 years old, and it was only 2 more years and he would be able to leave on his own journey. His training with Pokemon was going along nicely. Mudkip had evolved into Marshtomp and had learned Mud Bomb, Takedown, Earthquake, Ice Beam, Dig, Brick Break, Surf, Whirlpool and Waterfall. Treecko too had evolved into Grovyle. His speed had also increased considerably. He too had learned many new moves like Quick Attack, Leaf Blade, Agility, Detect, Brick Break, Double Team, Solar Beam, Energy Ball, Grass Knot, Bullet Seed, and Acrobatics. Froakie had evolved into Frogadier and learned Quick Attack, Lick, Smokescreen, Double Team, Ice Beam, Dig, Acrobatics, Surf, Waterfall, and Dark Pulse. Monferno was the one who showed greatest improvement. He had learned Taunt, Fury Swipe, Close Combat, Acrobatics, Flare Blitz, Double Team, Flame Charge, Focus Blast, Incinerate, Rock Smash, Blaze Kick, Double Kick, Fire Punch, Focus Punch and Heat Wave. His test had gone great too. He had not only passed with flying colors but got highest marks achieved. Though he didn't know that yet. Currently, they all were taking a break from studies and research and were visiting the Sky Pillar. It was quite a famous place. Many Pokemon made Sky Pillar their home and there was also rumors of a legendary Pokemon living there. They didn't find the legendary Pokemon they were looking for, but Naruto did caught a Pokemon. It was Banette, the ghost-type Pokemon. His nature was at times too playful for Naruto to handle and was an overall troublemaker. They were staying in the hotel for a few days. Naruto, being the curious boy he was, decided to explore the city a little. As usual, he looked for a place for his Pokemon to come out and play, and called them out of their Pokeballs. He sat down next to a tree and sometime later drifted into sleep. He was woken up from his sleep when he sensed a distress coming from a Pokemon. He left his Pokemon there, and didn't disturb their games and looked for the troubled Pokemon himself. Only few minutes he came across the Pokemon, who was sending distress signal. It was Bagon, if he remembered correctly. It was laying down on the ground. Naruto checked and found he was burning from fever. The blonde captured the Pokemon in his Pokeball and rushed towards the hotel. Surely 2 professors would know how to help it. His Pokemon knew something was up and followed him quickly. Their playing move evaporated. Naruto didn't bother to knock on the door of the hotel room, and rushed in. "Uncle Rowan!" he yelled. "I need your help." Both professors were there immediately became attentive and looked at him. Naruto rarely acted this way. If it was a minor problem, the boy would have handled it himself. It's got to be big for him to act like that. "What happened, Naruto?" asked Professor Rowan. Naruto showed them the Pokeball and told them what happened. Both of them didn't waste any time and called Bagon out of his Pokeball. It was so hot with fever that their hand nearly burned by just touching it. "We need some ice," said Professor Birch. Naruto ran to the kitchen and picked a large bowl. He called out his Marshtomp and have him use a low-powered water gun in it, which was then frozen by ice beam. He ordered Marshtomp to break the ice into smaller pieces and return to them. "Here, I have some ice." Both the professor replied with a thank you and started working. Naruto, who had nothing to do, decided to get out of their way and waited outside the room. He leaned against the door and impatiently started tapping his foot. Finally, for what it seemed several hours, which in reality were only 2 hours, Naruto was called inside. The Pokemon was looked fine and Naruto could see that it was now relaxed in its sleep. The boy sat next to him, watching over it. Professor Rowan decided not to ask any question till Naruto was ready. Right now, he was too focused on the Pokemon in front of him. The Rockhead Pokemon woke up several hours later. It was night time as it could see through the window. Then he saw the boy sleeping, resting his head on its bed. Bagon was surprised when a human came and saved him. It would have died without someone help, he knew for sure. It was suffering from high fever after its one more, probably the 1,000th, unsuccessful attempt at flying. Then after some time the boy opened his eyes. The first thing the Rockhead Pokemon could see in it was pure unadulterated worry. For someone he barely knew. "Hey, you are awake, are you alright now?" he suddenly said, when he realized that the Pokemon was conscious again. The Dragon-type Pokemon jerked its head back, startled, but nodded its head. Naruto gave him a small smile, happy that the Pokemon was alright. He then checked the clock. It was 12 o'clock. It meant he still had few more hours to sleep. He left Bagon there to rest and returned to Red. Next morning went pretty quickly. They all once again checked the Pokemon. Naruto asked Bagon if he had Joshua scan him with his device and was confirmed as male, would like to join his team, to which he agreed. Their time at Hoenn was coming to an end. The year spent there was quite fruitful for both Professor and Naruto. They all learned many things about Pokemon. And now they were at the airport. They were going to Johto as planned. Naruto was intently looking at the twin Eevee eggs Professor Birch had given him as a gift, for doing so well in his examinations and taking good care of not only his but all the Pokemons. Naruto smiled. New year. New Pokemons. New journey. He was practically living his dream. If only he was 10 years old, thing would have been perfect. Johto, a month after arrival. It had been 1 month after coming to Johto, and he could officially say he was fed up with things. He was studying under Professor Elm about the various special abilities of the Pokemon. He was learning a lot, that was for sure, but Professor Elm would at times just disappear, to not be seen for many days. He was sometimes so engrossed in his studies that he would completely ignore everything else. Sure, he was Professor Oak's greatest student, but he was boring as hell. Not to mention, he had the habit of long and boring lectures. Naruto at times was barely awake at the lessons. He was also very clumsy. Naruto had to help him out so many times. In just 1 month they had arrived, that he lost count. Misplaced or lost documents were commonplace for him. Uncle Rowan was no help at all. He was enjoying it all too much. He knew how active and energetic Naruto was and purposefully set him to listen to his colleagues' mind-numbing lessons. The only good thing that happened to him was that the twin Eevee eggs Professor Birch had given him, for doing so well in his studies, finally hatched into two healthy, a male and a female Eevee. He, in his spare time, trained his Pokemons occasionally, but most of the time left them to play or train on their own. Darkrai hadn't made an appearance yet, and he was already missing his friend. He was still helping Professor Elm and his aide in helping and feeding all the Pokemons that lived there, and every so often with first aid. He was trying to and failing to control Bagon's need to jump off a cliff. He had at least toned it down to 3 to 4 times a day. Naruto had reminded him that he would eventually be able to fly when he evolved. Then the dragon-type Pokemon requested him to train him so that he could become powerful and be able to evolve quickly. And by requested, I mean pestered him until he gave up. He would constantly try to fight Naruto's Pokemon and challenge them to battle. All of his Pokemon beat him up regularly, but it was getting harder and harder for them too. And how could he forget his only ghost-type Pokemon? That damned marionette Pokemon had taken upon himself to startle and scare Naruto every chance he get. It was getting quite annoying, but the blonde was able to get back at him at time, but was too busy doing other things, so he just left him alone mostly. Eevee twin were quickly becoming his nightmare. They started to chew everything they could their hands on, or paws. Thankfully their behavior was maturing day by day, but their troublemaking tendencies remained. He was very grateful that his other Pokemon, namely Monferno, Marshtomp, Grovyle and Frigadier, were relatively calm and helped their fellows, but even they failed to keep them out of trouble. Today was gonna be something different from the usual. Today a new trainer will be coming to get his first Pokemon. He wanted to be there when he made his choice of partner. So he completed his studies and waited in the lab instead of going to play with his Pokemons. The 3 starter Pokemons were already there. First was the grass-type Chikorita, second was fire-type Cyndaquil, and the last one was water-type Totodile. He had help taking care of all of them, so he knew they all had a great potential. Chikorita was really cute and loved to play with everyone. Cyndaquil was a little shy, but nothing some trainer Pokemon bonding session can't overcome. Totodile was, well, he loved to dance, was for sure. He was really confident and powerful, more so than his fellow starters. Naruto was feeding them when a boy roughly 11 years of age came. He didn't even bother to knock and came barging inside like he owed the place. His attitude really put Naruto to edge, but he write it off as excitement. The boy, he was wearing red shirt, under his matching sleeveless jacket, dark blue pants and red shoes. This boy sure loves red color, huh? Thought Naruto. His eyes then saw Naruto feeding the Pokemons, and immediately came over running and nearly knocked him over. Move over, twerp, one of them is gonna be mine today, he said. Naruto steadied himself and frowned. You are really rude, you know. What is your name? Asked the blonde boy. The boy gave him a cocky smirk and said, My name is Alan, next Pokemon Master. You better remember that, twerp. Naruto scoffed at his attitude. My name is Naruto, not twerp. And you better remember that, he said, using his own words against them. Anyway, Professor Elm should be here any moment. So who will you choose? The boy, now named Alan, once again looked at the 3 Pokemons and observed them a little. Chikorita was not really his type. It was too playful and childish for his tastes. Cyndaquil was too much of a coward. That left Totodile. I will go with Totodile, others are too weak, he said. Now the blonde was officially pissed. There is no such things as weak Pokemons, only weak trainers. The boy openly mocked him. Oh really, and how would you know, twerp, you don't even have a Pokemon? Naruto took a deep breath. Anger would not really help him at the moment. I have more than you at the moment, he said calmly. Though he did not want it to boast, boy certainly didn't give him any other option. Before Alan could retort, Professor Elm came inside in his usual clumsy self. You must be Alan, the new trainer here to get his first Pokemon. The boy nodded. So have you already made a choice? Do you know which Pokemon are you going to choose? Yes, Professor, I choose Totodile, he said. Ah yes. He is a fine choice, though a little handful. Where have I put it? Ah, here, it is your Pokédex. It is also you trainer I.D and Pokemon Encyclopedia, giving you data on various Pokemons and their moves and special abilities, said the Pokemon professor. He gave him 5 Pokeballs and also a badge case to keep all the badges he would win. Naruto didn't say anything and left to tend to his and all of the Pokemons living in the backyard of the lab. There weren't many, but those that were needed attention. He didn't notice when Alan followed him. He was feeding his own Pokemons, but the older boy interrupted him. Hey, what are these Pokemons? I've never seen them before, he said as he put his Pokédex. Pokemon unknown. No data available, said the mechanical voice of his dex for most of his Pokemons. And where did you get them? He asked. Naruto had an internal debate but decided to answer his question truthfully. For your information, that is Monferno, evolved form of Chimchar, a fire-type starter from Sinnoh. This is Marshtomp, evolved form of Mudkip, a water-type starter from Hoenn. That is Grovyle, evolved form of Treecko, grass-type starter of Hoenn. This is Frogadier, evolved from a Froakie, water-type starter of Kalos. This is Banette. I caught him at the Sky Pillar. Then there are Eevee twins. Professor Birch gave me 2 Eevee eggs from which they hatched, and this is Bagon. I caught him just before coming to Johto, Naruto said as he introduced the older boy to all of his Pokemons. He didn't notice Alan's face turned redder and redder as he continued. His jealousy was getting the best of him. Oh right, and how were you able to keep those Pokemons, when you are not even a Pokemon trainer? He nearly yelled. While I may not be a licensed trainer, I have license to carry all these Pokemons, since I'm traveling with Professor Rowan of Sinnoh and learning from all of the regional professors. Naruto replied. You think you are so good, that you can carry Pokemon, then I challenge you for a Pokemon battle, he said as took out Totodile's Pokeball. Didn't I just told you? I don't have a trainer's license, I cannot battle you, Naruto said. I don't care. You. Me. Now, he said. Naruto knew he wouldn't leave him alone until he have to Pokemon battle with him, so he agreed. Sure, it will be a one-on-one battle, seeing as you only have one Pokemon. You can choose which one of my Pokemon you want to battle, the blonde said calmly. It's not like it would make a difference. Alan clenched his teeth in anger. How dare that twerp mock him? He would show him. Alright Totodile, I choose you. And out came the dancing water-type Pokemon. And as for you, I choose to battle that Monferno of yours, he said smugly. Going with the type advantage, huh? Sure, whatever you want. Naruto looked at the fire-type Pokemon. You up for a battle, buddy? Monferno nodded enthusiastically. It had been a long time since he had a good fight outside of the usual team sparring. Alright Totodile Water Gun, Alan said. The small water type released a powerful compressed jet of water, which was reaching the fire type at a very fast pace. Then Mach Punch, I want to finish this as fast as possible. The fire type disappeared underground and after a moment materialized just behind it, his hand glowing, and delivered a direct hit to the big jaw Pokemon. Totodile shakily got on its feet. It had clearly taken a lot of damage from that last move and was on his last legs. It is really powerful to take a direct hit from Monferno's punch and still staying up, Naruto commented. But it's time to really finish it. Monferno Flare Blitz. Alan wasn't even able to give a command to his Pokemon before the fire type came towards it, covered in flames, barely visible. He was hardly able to make out his outline before he collided with the small water type with great force. The power of that move was enough to send the big jaw Pokemon hurling towards the tree, where it made a dent. Monferno took slight damage from the recoil and flinched, but it went unnoticed by Alan, who was gritting his teeth in anger while looking at his starter Pokemon. Naruto didn't say anything, just turned his back and continued with the task he was originally given. This just pissed him off more. He too returned his Totodile and his Pokeball and left without saying a word. Time skip, 1 month. It had been 1 month after his first battle with that arrogant trainer, and things were going nice enough for him. He trained all of his Pokemon harder than before because they all loved it, and had mock battles with each other. His Monferno had evolved into Infernape during this time period. The evolution of Fire-type only motivated the Rockhead Pokemon to train harder, and he finally evolved into Shelgon just a couple of days ago. His Eevee twin too were demanding tougher trainers so they could evolve too. Banette was training on his own leisurely pace but was getting better nonetheless. Currently he was reading the book which showed pictures and gave general details about different evolutions. He was showing both the pictures and reading details to his Eevee twins so they could choose their evolution. His male Eevee was really fascinated with and really liked Jolteon, while his female Eevee wanted to become Umbreon. So after a lot of talk with his Pokemon, and taking everything in consideration, he decided to ask Professor Elm for a Thunderstone, which was required for an Eevee to evolve into Jolteon. He returned all of his Pokemon to their respective Pokeballs except his Eevees and returned to Professor Elm's lab. It was late evening and sun had already set, so both of the professors were present in their lab. Hey Professor, do you have a Thunderstone with you? He asked the Johto regional professor. One of my Eevee wants to evolve into Jolteon. Professor Elm was more excited than normal, the blonde noticed, at the prospect of seeing an evolution brought about by a stone. Everyone seemed eager to witness one of the Eevee evolution. Of course Naruto, I have one in store. I am fascinated with these kind of thing, you know. Why do Pokemon evolve, how they evolve, why does certain Pokemon evolve only when in contact of a particular stone? You know these kind of things, so I do have a Thunderstone, he said passionately. Let me bring one. And with that he left to get the stone, and knowing him, it would take some time before he would finally find it. So Naruto, how is your Pokemon's training coming along? Asked the Sinnoh Regional Pokemon Professor. It's going fine, Uncle. We haven't been working on any new moves as I want the moves they already know to be perfect. But things are going along nicely. After Bagon evolved into Shelgon, both the Eevee twin were pestering me into training them so they could evolve too. So I took a book, which shows all the possible evolutions, so they could choose one of them. So here we are, as one of them wanted to be Jolteon. Eevee, said one of the Eevee, happily agreeing with his blonde trainer. At that exact moment Professor Elm came running. Thunderstone was in his hands, and with the looks of it he was going to crash. Fortunately he regained balance, before continuing on a more sedate pace. Here you go, Naruto, a Thunderstone, said the professor. Naruto stared intently at the stone. He knew about the stones from the books, and knew how it looked like, but it his first time actually holding one of them. He then looked at one of his Eevee, who too was watching it fixedly. Do you really want it? He asked, though he already knew the answer. Eevee nodded his head. Naruto bent down and extended his hand. The Eevee gently put his paw on the stone. The effects were immediate. The Eevee started changing his shape, and just a moment later in his place was Jolteon. Naruto asked Professor Elm's assistant to scan his newly evolved Jolteon with his device. The assistant complied. After a moment a mechanical voice called out. Jolteon, the lightning Pokemon. When angered or frightened, the hairs on Jolteon's body become like needles that are fired at its opponents. It absorbs charged atoms and can produce 10,000 volts of electricity. This Pokemon is male. It has ability Volt Absorb and Quick Feet. Eevee, now Jolteon looked at his trainer, and when he saw his trainer smiling, he returned it full force. Naruto affectionately and gently rubbed his fur. Only after rubbing his fur few times, it became charged with static electricity, which made Blonde's untamed hair even more spiky. He laughed lightly, which was returned by a slight smile in everyone's faces. Other Eevee, well now only one, yipped to gain his trainer's attention. The boy gently picked his only female Pokemon and placed her on his shoulder. Well, for Eevee to evolve into Umbreon I have to train her in the night, so I will see you sometime later, he said, mainly to Uncle Rowan. He was his guardian in absence of his mother after all. Don't be up too late, Naruto. And come back after 2 hours, said the professor. Sure, Uncle Rowan, he said. Let's go, Jolteon. Jolteon. And with that the lightning Pokemon followed his trainer. The night time in New Bark Town was very quiet, to say at least. The serenity and calm was really indescribable. It filled Naruto with tranquility and strange happiness, like he himself was a part of nature. When they reached their usual training ground, Naruto called all of his Pokemons and told them to train, while for the time being he would focus on Eevee. Nobody objected, and get to their assigned task. Anyway, now what to train you in? He asked himself while looking at the Pokemon in front of him. I know, there is a move called Moon Blast. It is like Solar Beam, but instead of sun, it absorbs power from moon. You ready to give it a try? After getting a nod he continued, for you to absorb power from moon, you first have to feel moonlight. Well, I actually don't know how to describe it, but you will feel it. I know you can. So give it a try. Few days later. After training for a few days in the night time, Eevee was nowhere close to evolving. The process of learning Moon Blast was going really slow. He don't why, but he didn't had any real progress teaching it to Eevee. He never had this much difficulty teaching any moves to any of his Pokemons. He kept motivating Eevee and didn't let her quit. No matter how much time it took to learn, he will help her and support her. Sometime later Eevee had made some progress and now could absorb moonlight, but forming it into a beam was really difficult. Then an idea came to his mind. His Grovyle had just learned Solar Beam and would be able to help her. Hey Grovyle. He called out to his only grass-type Pokemon. Can you come here for a moment? The Woodgecko Pokemon came towards his trainer. Grovyle, Eevee is having some trouble learning Moon Blast, would you help her? It is really similar to Solar Beam. The grass-type Pokemon nodded. After some time of training with Grovyle, Eevee finally managed to learn Moon Blast. Naruto affectionately picked her up and nuzzled her. The female Eevee purred in delight. The blonde also gave her a berry and some puffins as a reward. Eevee felt all of her energy returning to her body and increasing at an alarming rate. She started glowing. Naruto stared at her changing form. No matter how many times he saw it, witnessing the evolution of a Pokemon was always fascinating for him. After evolving, the Pokemon looked nothing like he have ever seen before. This Pokemon was covered primarily in pale cream-colored fur with pinkish feet, ears, and tail. There were 2 bows on it, one on its left ear and one around its neck, from which 2 feelers adorn it. The bows were pale cream with pinkish centers, while the feelers were pale cream with pinkish and blue tips. It had short, slender legs and small paws with 3 visible toes on each foot. Its eyes are blue with white pupils and no visible sclera. The newly evolved Pokemon covered his trainer with her bows, and it was sending a soothing aura from these bows Naruto dubbed as feelers. Wow, you evolved, and into a Pokemon I've never seen before. He was happy that his Pokemon finally evolved. Naruto looked at his only female Pokemon. Her eyes were hopeful, but there was also fear of rejection. Fear that her trainer would not want her, that she evolved into something he didn't wanted. She left like she was some kind of freak. The blonde gently rubbed her head. He didn't know how, but he knew those emotions all too well. The fear of rejection by someone who you truly care about was something no one wanted to feel. You are really beautiful. He started. Do you fear that I would throw you away? The look in her eyes said it all. There was need for words. Naruto sighed. Don't be afraid, no matter what, you are my family, and we took care of each other and never abandoned them. And no matter what, you don't turn your back on your family. The blonde gave her a slight smile, which the newly evolved Pokemon returned. Now let's get back to the lab. Uncle and Professor must be waiting for us. He returned all of his Pokemons in their Pokeballs and made his way towards the lab. As usual, they were still there, discussing something Naruto didn't care about or totally ignored. Hey Uncle Rowan, guess what, my Eevee just evolved, he said. Oh really? It was Professor Elm who answered him. He was easily excited by the prospect of evolution. Can we see it? Sure. And with that he called her outside of the Pokeball. All of the people present there, except Naruto for obvious reasons, gasped at the sight of a Pokemon they didn't even knew existed. What kind of Pokemon is this? Questioned Professor Elm. She evolved from Eevee, isn't she beautiful? Asked the boy as he picked up his Pokemon and cuddled her. Yes, she is, said Uncle Rowan. But he was more interested in the type of Pokemon his Eevee had evolved into. Needless to say, he had never encountered that particular type before. Amazing, could she be the 8th possible evolution of Eevee that we knew nothing about? Professor Elm asked the rhetorical question. He was talking mostly to himself at this point. Also, he had taken out his documents, and was taking notes on only Arceus knew what. Can we go to sleep now? He asked, yawning. It is quite late in the night. Rowan nodded, and Naruto returned her to his Pokeball and went to sleep. The next morning. Naruto was up early that morning. He knew professors will be going to ask him a lot of questions regarding his newly evolved Eevee. And come to think of it, he hadn't actually decided what he would call her, as her species was still unnamed. All of the professors plus his aide were already there, discussing what could have triggered the new evolution, or what type it was and things like that. Not a moment later they noticed Naruto as asked him to join them in their debate. Well Naruto, are you going to tell us how the evolution actually happened? Asked the ever-excited Professor Elm. Well, I had read that when an Eevee is trained enough and at night is exposed to moonlight that it will evolve into Umbreon, so I taught her Moonblast, 'cause you know the whole absorbing the moonlight thing. Everyone nodded at that. But it didn't go as expected. I was feeding her some berries and poffins as a reward when she evolved. And that's about it, he said. The professors nodded and thanked him for the info. Few hours later Naruto completed his studies and went to his daily task of feeding and taking care Pokemons, and then to his Pokemon's training. Few months later. It had been several months after his Eevee evolved into Sylveon, a name he had given, when they realized that she was the first of her kind. He had already taught her a lot of moves and was working on her speed along with everyone else's. He realized that most of his Pokemons were speed-oriented, and someone could easily find a way to neutralize it. And he had started training them in move resistance and durability. And also the moves that could give them the advantage over their opponent when they are in type disadvantage. Infernape had already learned Thunder Punch, covering his weakness to water type. His newly evolved Swampert was part ground type, so he was immune to electric type attack, but he had 4 times weakness to grass type attack. Fortunately, he already knows Ice Beam and had learned Ice Ball. His Grovyle was fast enough to dodge most fire type attack, which was his main weakness, and had learned Dig and Rock Slide. Frogadier was weak to electric type, and the only move that could help him against them was Dig. Jolteon had learned Rain Dance. Banette, being the ghost type, had the least type weakness and knows many moves. His Sylveon was another story altogether. He didn't know what to teach her, so he started creating new moves and told her to follow her instincts. Shelgon was quickly becoming his powerhouse, being the dragon type. His attacks were strong and he had learned various moves. Sadly, he won't be able to learn much dragon type moves until he evolves. Things were once again looking good for Naruto. His Pokemons were doing well, studies were going as good as he had hoped, and he had once again defeated Alan, this time in 3-on-3 battle. Flashback. I challenge you to a Pokemon battle, this time 3-on-3. Alan said. It would be good warm-up before my match in Johto League. Naruto asked for Uncle Rowan's permission, which after some nagging was granted. He himself became the referee of the match. Alright, this will be a 3-on-3 battle between trainers Alan and Naruto. Anyone can switch Pokemon during the match. This match will end when 3 Pokemon on either team will be unable to battle. Do you both understand? He asked, to which they both nodded. As the challenger, Alan will choose his Pokemon first, said Professor Wo. Referee Rowan. Ursaring, I choose you, said Alan, and came out Ursaring, the hibernating Pokemon. It roared straight away. Naruto knew about its ability Guts but decided to activate it anyway. It would surely make things interesting. Jolteon, I choose you, called out Naruto. You can have first chance, Alan, he stated. Ursaring Fury Swipes, said Alan. Let it come then, Thunderbolt, Naruto said calmly. The hibernating Pokemon came close to the lightning Pokemon when it was struck by Thunderbolt and made it flinch, and Jolteon was able to easily dodge the incoming attack. Jolteon Pin Missile, Naruto stated. Many needle-like projectile was fired from his Jolteon's body and struck his opponent's body several times. Ursaring didn't even flinch but instead looked more pumped up. Ha, these puny little attack won't even scratch it. You will have to do something better. Alan openly mocked him. Naruto frowned at his behavior. It was no secret that they disliked each. Then what about this? Jolteon Sand Attack then Thunder. The electric-type Pokemon threw sand at his challenger and charged his most powerful electric-type attack. Alan didn't say anything as he was waiting for the exact same moment. Few seconds were all it took Jolteon to charge the strongest electric-type move, and then the hibernating Pokemon was struck with lightning. It roared in anger and pain but was still able to fight. The electricity was coursing throughout its body. It tried to move but was paralyzed. Then its ability kicked in. Its body was surrounded by a crimson aura and its eyes turned red. Alan smirked. It was the moment he had been waiting for. Ursaring had activated its ability Guts. Jolteon Return. Naruto recalled the lighting Pokemon and picked another one. You always wanted a tough battle, right? Here is your chance. He pressed the button on the Pokeball, making it increase its size. It's U-turn Infernape. And out came the flame Pokemon, in all of his flaming glory. He stood at an impressive height of 3 feet 11 inches, larger than its pre-evolution form. Let's heat things up, Infernape Flamethrower. The flame Pokemon let out a torrent of flames, which was much, much hotter than anything felt before. He sure was training hard. Ursaring dodged, then bulk up. The hibernator Pokemon managed to avoid the attack and used the status increasing move. Now Hammer Arm. Naruto didn't show any emotion on his face. Infernape Close Combat. The Sinnoh Fire-type starter Pokemon was very fast, well faster than his opponent, and avoided any physical attack it could deal and punched and kicked the hibernation Pokemon. While it didn't do any serious damage, it managed to annoy it to such a level that it started attacking without restraint. Ursaring, listen to me, Alan yelled. Hyper Beam. Fortunately, he did listen and fired the fabled Hyper Beam. Naruto, not wasting any time, ordered a more powerful fire-type attack. Infernape Overheat. The two attacks collided and exploded in an impressive display of power. Infernape Flare Blitz. The blonde took advantage of the fact that Pokemon need time to recharge after using such a powerful move. Blue flame covered Infernape's body as he charged at his opponent, his speed so great that he looked like a blue missile. The attack struck Ursaring with such a great force that it was thrown back a couple of feet. Red sparks surrounded Infernape's body as he took recoil damage. The hibernating Pokemon managed to get on his feet but was struggling. His activated ability had vanished. Alan gritted his teeth. This was not going as he had thought, but didn't get the chance to make a comment as Naruto called out the next attack. Infernape Finish It with Overheat. The strong fire-type attack, which was noticeably weaker than the last time, hit Ursaring, who was too tired to dodge. Ursaring is unable to battle. Infernape wins, announced Professor-turned-referee Rowan. Blast as I choose you. Alan called out his second Pokemon. Going with the type advantage again. It's not like it had helped you before, Naruto stated. Alan didn't bother with comeback taunt and immediately called out the attack. Blasta's Water Gun. A stream of water left its cannon and accelerated towards the flame Pokemon. Infernape dodged, then Flamethrower. Infernape used his superior speed to dodge the incoming attack and retaliated with flames. Blastoise withdraw, Rapid Spin, then Hydro Pump, stated out Alan. The shellfish Pokemon withdrew itself in its shell and started spinning rapidly, and at the same time released a huge amount of water. The water was spinning around it, making it immune to any fire-type attack. Infernape return, Naruto said softly and returned Infernape in his Pokeball. Shelgon, I choose you. It was time for Endurance Pokemon to join the battle now. Blastoise Hydro Pump, stated Alan. Protect yourself with Hidden Power. The two attacks collided, but no one managed to gain the upper hand. They were equal in power. Now Dragon Dance. Blastoise Hydro Cannon. The shellfish Pokemon charged the most powerful attack and aimed the Endurance Pokemon. Naruto knew if the attack made the direct contact, it would spell trouble and will deal a lot of damage. The type Shelgon may not be able to handle. Dragon Pulse at full power, he stated softly. The two attacks met each other in the middle of the ground and created an explosion. Well, an understatement, as the power behind those two attacks was incredible. Blastoise's pure power compared to Shelgon's Dragon Dance enhanced Dragon Pulse. The Dragon-type Pokemon was annoyed at the result, to say at least. Shelgon used another Dragon Pulse, while it recovers. It was one of the main problems with stronger attacks. If your Pokemon is not trained well, it would take a lot of time to recover or recharge from such a move. Blastoise withdraw. Fortunately, it could still use with the defensive move. The shellfish Pokemon withdrew itself inside the shell and protected itself, formed the incoming Dragon-type attack. Shelgon Flamethrower and keep at it, the blonde said. His opponent did nothing and let Blastoise recover what lost strength it could regain. Now keep the flames and charge Zen Headbutt, he stated. Now Alan was surprised. The Endurance Pokemon who was spouting powerful flames charged at his Blastoise. He was not able to give command to his Pokemon, and it was hit. The attack was strong enough to launch the water type a few feet back. It came out of his shell, and the blonde didn't waste any time. Shelgon finished with Dragon Rush. The Endurance Pokemon covered himself in Dragon-type energy and charged his downed opponent. He slammed into the water type hard, and it didn't manage to get up this time. Blastoise is unable to battle. Shelgon wins, announced the referee. Alan gritted his teeth as he returned his Pokemon to the ball. He had lost 2 Pokemon while Naruto had yet to lose 1. Feraligatr, I choose you. Alan called out his last Pokemon. So your Totodile evolved. Not bad, Naruto stated. You will see what he is actually capable of. Ice Beam. Alan had figured that his opponent's Pokemon was a Dragon type when it used both Dragon Pulse and Dragon Rush. And Ice was effective against them. Shelgon counter with Hidden Power. This time the Ice Beam completely overwhelmed the Dragon type and dealt an effective attack. Now finish with Ice Punch. Before Shelgon could recover from the last attack, the Big Jaw Pokemon was already in front on him, its fist coated in ice. The super effective attack combined with natural strength of the water type was too much for the small Dragon type and he fainted. Naruto silently returned his Pokemon and thought what he was going to do next. Jolteon, time for battle. Feraligatr, start things with Hydro Pump. Alan called out his first attack. Jolteon Thunderbolt at the incoming Hydro Pump, then dodge. The lightning Pokemon charged the powerful electric attack and aimed the incoming move. The water from Hydro Pump conducted electricity and struck the water type. He dodged the attack in the meantime. The electric attack did little damage to the Big Jaw Pokemon, which surprised Naruto. Jolteon discharge quick, Naruto said. If the Thunderbolt was not enough to damage the water type, so the wide area attack would have to do. Jolteon let loose an impressive amount of electricity in a wide arc that covered a lot of area. Feraligatr, Blizzard. Alan called out the next attack in surprisingly calm voice. It was like he was sure he would win. His Pokemon exhaled very cold icy air, the discharge did nothing to it. Jolteon return. Naruto knew it was futile and returned the lightning Pokemon to his ball. Infernape, time to battle. Alan didn't say anything. Feraligatr Hydro Pump. Infernape dig, then Flare Blitz. The flame Pokemon dodged the incoming attack by digging and they used the fire-type attack. Alan was surprised and lost his calm. The ground was turning too hot to be comfortable. Feraligatr Hydro Pump in the whole ground, drew that monkey out. The Big Jaw Pokemon followed the instruction to the T and drenched the whole ground. Infernape, come on out and Mach Punch. The fire-type Pokemon was still faster, and hit the water type with the fighting type move. Don't give him a chance to recover. Use Mach Punch and Close Combat. The Fire type pressed his advantage and attacked the Water type with the Mach Punch/Close Combat combo. Both Pokemon were now panting. It seemed that the drenched field did a lot of damage to Infernape. Feraligatr Rain Dance. The Water type shot some sort of energy ball toward the sky and immediately the clouds began to form. Infernape counter with Sunny Day. The clouds disappeared and the sun shone brightly once again. Alan gritted his teeth. No matter what he did, Naruto always found a way to counter it. Feraligatr Hydro Pump once again, he said desperately. He knew his Pokemon was tiring and it was never good. Infernape dodged with Quick Attack, then Mach Punch. The Fire type was fast enough to avoid the incoming Water type attack and hit his opponent once again with the Fighting type move. Feraligatr Hydro Cannon. His Water type Pokemon charged the attack a lot faster than Blastoise and fired at the Fire type. Infernape dodged once again, then Thunder Punch. The Electric type attack came as a surprise to Alan, but it was already too late. The super effective attack connected and it made the Water type, who was already tired, flinch. Now finish this with Flare Blitz. The attack struck with and both the Water type and Fire type fainted from the effort. Both Infernape and Feraligatr are unable to battle. This is a tie, but since Naruto still has one usable Pokemon, he wins. Flashback end. Time skip. After the defeat, he had not seen hair nor hide of his challenger. The year had passed relatively slower from then on. With his studies, exam and Pokemon training, Naruto was at least busy. His birthday had come and gone. He received several gifts from the professors and his mother sent him new clothes. He had gained a new friend in Larvitar. He had helped Professor Elm with taking care of the egg and hatched the little guy. But he rarely left his side and screeched when someone else even approached him. They left the Johto region for the last stop in their journey, Kanto. But first they were going to Alto Mare for a deserved vacation. A long-awaited return. When the plane landed, Naruto was more subdued this time. Things that happened last year were weighing heavily on his mind. How his rivalry with Alan increased to the level of bitterness. How the poachers tried to kidnap his Pokemon, and also the legendaries of Alto Mare, and the overall Alto Mare incident, and all that. The only good thing that happened was that his bond with his Pokemons increased to such a level that it was nearly impossible to break. He had gained a new friend and battler in the form of Larvitar. He, like his every other Pokemons, loved to train and battle. Flashback, the Alto Mare incident. Naruto with Professor Rowan was visiting the island town of Alto Mare. They both needed a break from their studies and research. So they decided, why not the island town of Alto Mare? Professor Elm had gotten the news of their annual chariot race and Naruto decided to participate in it. After a lot of pleading, Uncle Rowan gave in and let the blonde participate in it. It was a close one, but Naruto and Swampert won against the last time's winner and got a beautiful medal as a prize. He met a girl named Bianca and her grandfather Lorenzo. And also the legendary guardians of Alto Mare. He and all of his Pokemons played with both Latios and Latias, the Ian duo. He learned that both were just children and their father, the Latios, sacrificed himself to save the whole city. Later that night, Latias came to his room to ask for help, as Latios had been captured and was in a lot of pain. With Latios' ability of sight sharing, they learned the two girls had captured him and was using him to control the power of defense mechanism of Alto Mare. They were successful in saving Latios, but it was already too late, and there was big wave coming their way to destroy the city. Both Latios and Latias managed to combine their power to save the city, but it was already too late of the male Ian Pokemon, who had to give up his life and become the new Soul Dew. With tears in both of their eyes, Latias and Naruto said goodbye to each other. "I still wish I could come with you, Naruto," she said. Naruto was heartbroken at seeing her in so much pain. After the death of her brother, she was more subdued and her playful nature evaporated. It was like that a part of her died with her brother. "I know and I want you to, but you know that I am not strong enough trainer to protect you, and as you are a legendary, many people would be after you." He cried a little more but looked up in determination. "But I promise, I will return for you. Will you be willing to wait for me?" he asked. Latias too dried her tears. "As long as it takes, Naruto," showing same determination and courage as the blonde. "I will be here waiting for you." Flashback end. When they left the plane, a young boy was there with the famous Professor Oak, greeting and welcoming them to the Kanto region. He said his name was Tracy. They all boarded the vehicle and made their way towards the Pallet town, where Professor Oak Ranch was located. Naruto had heard it was a home for many Pokemon. Trainers who started their journey from Pallet town left their Pokemons there when they had more than 6 Pokemons, as almost no other trainer had the license to carry more than 6. He was lucky enough to carry more than 6. Those who did either were exceptional trainer or were field researcher. Professor Oak was really interested in his Sylveon, the newly dubbed fairy type. He was always present when the blonde tried to teach her new moves or tried to learn her weaknesses and strength. He had already taught her and most of his Pokemons that were fully evolved, Hyper Beam the strongest normal type attack. Training with her at times was mostly trial and error. After months of rigorous training and testing, he figured out that she was immune to Dragon type and very resistant to Dark and Ghost type. It was one of the reasons that he named her as Fairy type. She reminded him of the angels and fairies. His other Pokemons at times were rather jealous of the attention she was getting from their trainer, mostly Larvitar and Bennett. Others were mature enough. His studies under the guidance of Professor Oak improved to unprecedented level. He had to study a lot harder than before to keep up his grades. He had promised to the legendary Dragoness that he would return for her when he was powerful enough, so he trained his body along with his Pokemons. In the meantime, he also met with Gary Oak, grandson of Professor Oak. He was nice enough kid, though at times annoying, as he asked the blonde a lot of questions regarding the Pokemons of different regions he had never seen before. Fortunately, he was too young to be allowed near to then. Next in his social list was the Ketchum family. Delia was a single mother, who took care of her son Ash. What happened to her husband he never asked. She was a very loving and kind-hearted woman. She invited him and Professor Rowan for lunch, and sometimes dinner with Professor Oak. Her cooking was really awesome. Ash Ketchum was a really nice kid, though no less annoying than Gary at times. Sure, he loved to learn more about Pokemon, but rarely touched books, and only when he needed to pass some exams. Though the excitement and genuine joy he had on meeting new Pokemons was what melted his heart. Even then, he kept his Pokemon away for both him and Gary. His rivalry with Gary was both amusing and annoying. In their arguments and contests, they made him so mad that he avoided them like a plague for weeks. Current time, few months after reaching Kanto. Currently, he was studying for his next set of exams. Even though Professor Oak taught him many things, he had to give many tests too, to show that he had learned everything by heart. Today was something different, however. There was some Pokemon wreaking havoc in the electrical tower nearby. They were having near constant electrical breakdown because of that, and more often than not had to rely on generator backup. It was getting quite bothersome, so Naruto was tasked to investigate the scene and catch the responsible Pokemon. His reward was that he could keep the Pokemon he caught. He asked Infernape, Swampert, and Jolteon to come with him, as they were more than enough to catch one electric-type Pokemon. They all went to tower and started looking around. They separated, and Infernape decided to stick with the blonde. After some time of fruitless searching, his Swampert managed to find the source of their discomfort, and alerted him. It was a small mouse Pokemon. Pikachu, if he remembered correctly, who came in contact with the electricity and lost control. It was so small that Naruto wondered how it could handle that much electricity. But there was one problem with it. It was not in control of its action, and in blind rage, that was no doubt due to large amount of electricity, was attacking anything in sight. Naruto was amazed. That little thing could produce more electricity than his Jolteon. Sure, the electrical source nearby was enhancing its power, but that was ridiculous. It was constantly attacking his Swampert with powerful thunderbolts, which thankfully were less effective due to him being the part ground type. Infernape knocked it out Mach Punch. His flame Pokemon didn't respond but charged at it in an impressive display of speed and attacked with Mach Punch. Unfortunately, the little mouse was fast enough to dodge it and retaliate with another thunderbolt. The flame Pokemon cried out because of the amount of electricity coursing throughout his body. Naruto gritted his teeth. This was surely a powerful Pokemon, of that, there was no doubt. But it needed to be stopped right now. The boy didn't want it to take any chances. Swampert, cover it with mud shot. The mudfish Pokemon shot relatively huge amount of mud and covered the electric mouse Pokemon, hampering with his ability to shoot electricity. The little mouse tried but failed to charge another thunderbolt, and was tiring itself. Infernape Fire Spin, then end it with Mach Punch. The little mouse who was stuck was faced with a gigantic amount of flames, well, gigantic to him at least, but could do nothing as it was trapped in the mud. Fortunately, the flames didn't touch it except trapping it in another barrier. The flame Pokemon charged again with Mach Punch, this time holding nothing back, because he knew the little mouse could handle it. This time there was no place to dodge and was struck, the force of which knocked it out in an instant. The boy didn't waste any time and threw a Pokeball. The little mouse did not put up any resistance, and was captured. Naruto picked up the ball, and eyed it carefully. Pikachu was in a really bad condition, from what he could tell, and while he had some basic first aid knowledge, it won't be enough for it. So he did the best thing he could think of. He ran. He ran towards the laboratory, as he knew professors know a lot about medicine and all that. His friends were close, following him. They too were worried about the little guy. The blonde didn't bother to knock on the door and just barged in. Upon seeing the expression on his face, a pokeball in his hand and his panting, Rowan had an idea of what was wrong. "What happened this time, Naruto?" he sighed. Pointing towards the pokeball in his hand, the boy answered. "I caught the Pokemon responsible for electrical breakdown. It was this small Pikachu really. I was awed at the amount of electricity the little guy was discharging. Its thunderbolt were more powerful than Jolteon's," he stated. This got both of the professors' attention. Surely no Pikachu was strong enough to overpower a fully evolved Jolteon. "Are you sure about that, Naruto?" It was Professor Oak who asked the question. "Yeah, but there is something wrong with this one. Could you please check it out?" "Of course, Naruto, just give me his Pokeball." He took the ball from the younger boy and immediately started to scan the Pokemon from the outside. "There is nothing wrong with it, aside for it to give off high amount of electrical energy. To know more we would have to do a thorough checkup," Professor Oak said. "Well, I'll be off then." Next day. Naruto was up early that morning. He was getting worried about that small electric-type Pokemon. The little guy was not only putting off more electricity that it could handle, it was also exhausted. There had to be side effect of that kind of power. There is always one, well, at least one. He knew that worrying over something would not help him in the least, so he settled for learning more about the little electric type. On the device used to scan Pokemon, there was an entry of it. Pikachu, the tiny mouse Pokemon. It is still inept at retaining electricity. When it is startled, it discharges power accidentally. It gets better at holding power as it grows older. So according to the device, it was still inept at retaining electricity, and could discharge its power accidentally when amused or startled. But this one was capable of using Thunderbolt, a really powerful electric-type move. He was brought out his thoughts with the sound of door opening. He looked up to see Professor Oak and Rowan exiting the hospital room. Naruto instantly stood up and get towards them. "How is it, Professor Oak?" "Well, pouches on his cheeks are overstrained and took a little bit of damage. So aside from that, it is okay." Naruto breathed a sigh of relief. "So all we have to do is not make him use electric-type attacks?" "That's the gist of it, yes." It was Professor Rowan who answered this time. "So how are your studies going, Naruto?" "It's going great, Uncle Rowan. I will be ready to take the next exam in a week." Both the professors were amazed at this. The work they had given his should have taken at least a month or two, by even a grown-up man, but this child will be able to do it in less than 2 weeks. He cleared his throat. "Very good, Naruto. At the rate you are going, expect a gift from me at the end of this year." "Yay!" he exclaimed in childish enthusiasm. "Thanks, Uncle Rowan." Yes. Expect one from as well, Naruto," said Professor Oak with a smile. Time skip. So the time flew by, and the boy learned everything he could from the elder professor, which was a lot. All of his Pokemons were doing great. They were not learning any new moves but mastering the old ones. His Grovyle and Frogadier had finally evolved and were now proud Sceptile and Greninja. His bond with every single one of his Pokemons was great, and they were closer than ever before. Though he was having some trouble controlling them. The net was still a troublemaker, and the blonde was having a hard time dealing with his prank. The marionette Pokemon loved to scare everyone, and nowadays everyone was getting annoyed of his behavior. His Sylveon did everything she could to curb his behavior or at least tone it down, but to no avail. Thankfully his Pikachu was now completely healed and was training with his other Pokemons. In absence of electrical source, his power was considerably weakened, but he was still powerful enough to match Jolteon's, which infuriated the lightning Pokemon to no end. So he decided to completely focus on his defense and speed, and left attack alone, which they both decided they would work on later. His Jolteon's speed as a result was great, which was only matched by his Sceptile and Greninja. Larvitar and Bagon were growing up nicely. They surely were his powerhouses. They loved to play or train all day. Not only that, they loved to learn new moves, and Naruto was at loss on what to teach them next. They had already learned Hidden Power and various other moves and were working on mastering them. Infernape and Swampert were arguably his most rounded-up Pokemons. They had few weaknesses and had already covered them. While the dual Water/Ground type focused more on attack power, the dual Fire/Fighting type focused on speed and close combat. Though his speed was lesser than Sceptile and his other fast Pokemon, he was more than a match for them. Same was with his Swampert. He was powerful enough to wipe the floor with many of his team. Now the year was coming to an end. After 3 long years of hard studies, in 3 different regions, They both were more than eager to return home. Both had learned a lot from their journeys. Friendship, rivalries, training and bonding. He had given his test and had done well, how much, even he didn't know. But the professors were once again surprised with his knowledge, and decided to give him the gift they were talking about. Naruto, my boy. You have done quite well and exceeded all of the expectation we had. For this, we decided to give you a gift. Professor Oak paused, giving a dramatic flair. We give you the rank of field researcher. Naruto's eyes widened at this. You also have permission to carry 20 Pokemons. Are you serious? We are Naruto, said Professor Rowan. You have already proved that you are responsible enough. But here is the deal, you cannot catch more than 20 Pokemons. Naruto's smile vanished. But he understood that it was not a bad thing. I will be able to catch only 20 Pokemons in total. But I already have Infernape, Swampert, Sceptile, Greninja, Banette, Shelgon, Jolteon, Sylveon, Larvitar, and Pika. It means I can only have 10 more Pokemons. This got him thinking. Now that I can catch only 10 more, I have to be careful, but aside from that, it's not bad. I will be able to focus more on the current team and bring out their strength and cover their weaknesses. Professor Oak gave him a light laugh and Rowan a slight smile. Yeah, things were looking good for our favorite blonde hero. And now they were returning home. Homecoming. The moment Professor Rowan and Naruto left the plane, they were greeted by none other than Alina Joy, San Gem Town's Nurse Joy and Naruto's mother. The pink-headed mother immediately enveloped her son in a tight hug. So tight that the blonde had trouble breathing. Mom can't breathe, he gasped out. His mother relaxed her grip a little bit but still didn't allow him to move. The boy noticed tears leaking out of her eyes. It's great to see you, Mom. I missed you so much. He wiped his mother's eyes with his sleeves and gave her a warm smile, which was returned by her. I missed you too, honey. I missed you so much. Ahem. It was Professor Rowan who interrupted the mother-son bonding moment. He was feeling a little left out. Sorry there, Professor Rowan. Welcome home. How was your trip? She asked politely. It was fine, Alina. He started. It was a great learning experience. For both of us. And Naruto caught a few Pokemons. She started cooing over her son. Oh, you have grown so much in these 3 years and a lot of Pokemons. I want to meet all of them. Of course, even though she knew about the Pokemons, as both Naruto and Professor talked to her over phone, she wanted to see them. There was a jeep waiting for them, but without any drivers. It was evident that Nurse Joy was the one to drive the vehicle. It seemed she had finally learned driving. They dropped Professor Rowan in his lab as he wanted to check up on how his assistants were handling the lab without him. They sometimes liked to slack off, his professor's eyes at least. He was rarely happy with his assistants. They entered the house and Naruto sat on the couch. Their couch was really comfy and the blonde loved every part of it. I have made your favorite food, including ramen, said the pink-haired nurse. Naruto gave a slight cheer. You're right, slight for him at least, at the mention of his much-loved and desired food. It was not often his mother let him eat the nice stuff. His enthusiasm was infectious as she too found herself smiling with him. I want to meet all of your Pokemon, sweetie, she said. Naruto nodded. Sure, Mom. Let's go outside and I will introduce you to everyone. They were outside the house momentarily and the boy started with his introductions. First, the egg you gave me before I left for my journey. The egg hatched into a little Froakie which evolved into Frogadier, and then come out Greninja. And out came the ninja Pokemon. Greninja was a large, bipedal, frog-like Pokemon. His body and legs were dark blue, with single large white bubbles on his legs and arms and white spots over its eyes. His feet were webbed and he had a yellow chest and a yellow and blue face. His mouth was hidden behind a large, pink tongue that wrapped around Greninja's neck and extends outward behind his head. Greninja, he said. He was looking overly serious and resolute. The next Pokemon I caught was Chimchar. I had helped him Heart Home City, and he decided to follow me around. Now that he is all grown up. Infernape time to come out. The flame, unlike his team member, looked fun-loving and goofiness was practically rolling off of him. His mother gave a light gasp upon seeing the Sinnoh fire-type starter. While they were not rare, they weren't common either. And this one was fully evolved. The flame Pokemon, Infernape, was a bipedal, primate-like Pokemon that was primarily reddish-brown with sections of white fur on its chest, head, and lower legs. Several gold markings adorn its body. On top of its head is a large flame. There were 5 blue digits on both his feet and hands, and had a long tail. He was giving both of them a mock salute with a goofy grin. His mother smiled at the sight of such a powerful and happy Pokemon. Well, this is the first Pokemon I actually battled before capturing. He is one of the Hoenn starter. Come forth, Swampert. Swampert was a bipedal Pokemon. His body was cobalt blue and had large three-fingered hands. He had 2 orange-colored gills that protrude from round patches on his cheeks. His head had 2 large semicircular black fins that extend from the top of his orange eyes to the back of its head. His tail fin was large, broad, and black-colored. He easily towered both the boy and his mother and had an intimidating presence, which was ruined by his docile behavior. Nurse Joy was nervous at the sight of such a huge Pokemon, but she was relieved when Naruto rubbed his head and the big mudfish Pokemon let out a happy sigh. I caught him when he was a little Mudkip. He was so cute back then. He gave a playful sigh. Then he evolved. The mudfish Pokemon was getting annoyed by his trainer's comment and shot him with a weak water gun which drenched him from head to toe. Both his Pokemon and his mother giggled at the interaction between the blonde and his Swampert. Infinite, can you please help me dry myself? It is getting a little cold. The flame Pokemon shot embers at his trainer. Now Naruto was warm but his face was covered in soot. All of his Pokemon was on the floor laughing and his mother was giggling madly. The blonde wiped his face clean with a hanky and continued with the introduction. The next on the list of Pokemons I caught is this one, he said, pulling out another Pokeball. This was really young grass type when I captured him and now he is a proud Sceptile. Come on out, buddy. Sceptile, the forest Pokemon, was a reptilian, bipedal Pokemon. His neck was somewhat long and he had 2 crests on its head. His tail was shaped similar to that of a palm tree's branch. Both of his long arms had 2 sharp, elongated leaves and 3 claws. He looked cool, calm and collected and was green in color, like most of the grass types. He also had a twig he kept in his mouth like a toothpick. Sceptile, he said as he waved his arm in greeting, which his mother returned with a smile. Afterwards, when we were on a holiday before leaving Hoenn, I met this Pokemon. He was really ill and needs some help. Professor Birch and Uncle Rowan restored him to full health and he decided to come with us. After a lot of training he evolved into Shelgon. Time to meet my mother. Shelgon, the endurance Pokemon, was a quadruped Pokemon that resembles a pupal stage. There were bone structures covering most of his body, which formed a shell with 2 openings and 3 ridges on top. One opening was in the front, revealing 2 yellow eyes. Oh my, I have heard of his type before. They are very rare and belong to pseudo-legendary category. Yes, so you can guess how lucky I am, he stated. Afterwards, Professor Birch gave me twin Eevee eggs, as a gift for not only passing the exams but also gaining the highest marks in history. They hatched into 2 Eevee, 1 male and 2nd female. This one wanted to become Jolteon, so I asked Professor Elm for a Thunderstone, so here he is. Jolteon, the lightning, was a quadruped, mammalian Pokemon. He was covered in yellow fur with a spiky fringe around its tail, and a white ruff around his neck. His ears were large and pointed, and his eyes and small nose are black. He had a little crazed look about himself, which means he needed to discharge his electricity soon. The female Eevee evolved into something we have ever encountered before, so I got the chance to name her Sylveon. Come on out. Sylveon, the intertwining Pokemon, was a quadruped, mammalian Pokemon covered primarily in pale cream-colored fur with pinkish feet, ears, and tail. There were 2 bows on her, one on her left ear and one around her neck, from which 2 feelers adorn her. Her eyes were blue, the same color like his trainer, with white pupils and no visible sclera. His mother squealed like a little schoolgirl and immediately picked up Sylveon, hugging her. The intertwining Pokemon relished in the attention and purred in contentment, and rubbed her face with the kind nurse. Both Naruto and his Pokemon sighed in defeat. Sylveon was such an attention whore at times. I helped Professor Elm hatch an egg, but he saw me first and decided to come with me. Come on out, Larvitar. Larvitar, the rock-skinned Pokemon, was a small, green reptilian Pokemon with rocky skin. He had a blunt spike on top of its head and triangular, black markings below and on the upper corners of his red eyes. Red scales cover his diamond-shaped belly, and there are several small holes in its body. He had a tail with a conical center surrounded by a ring of plate-like scales. His mother smiled kindly at the small dual rock ground-type Pokemon. I caught this little guy when he was creating trouble at the electrical power plant back in Kanto. You wouldn't believe the amount of power this little electric type was giving out. Piku, come on out. Piku, the tiny mouse Pokemon, was a small, ground-dwelling mouse Pokemon with pale yellow fur. His ear tips, collar, and tail were black and angular. The tiny mouse also had pink pouches to store electricity on his cheeks, and its tiny nose, which looked more like a dot. His mother repeated the behavior and picked the little guy. Pikachu was startled by this and immediately shocked both the mother and Sylveon, who was still in her arms. The pink-haired nurse smiled sheepishly. Oops, I forget that Pikachu could not control the electricity and can accidentally zap someone when amused and startled. Sorry, baby, she said to both Pikachu and Sylveon. Naruto smiled slightly at his mother's behavior, but breathed heavily at the thought of his last Pokemon. And last but not least, I caught this one at Sky Pillar. This is really mischievous and sometimes downright nasty. Say hello, Bennett. Bennett, the marionette Pokemon, was a dark gray, doll-like Pokemon. He had 3 short spikes on his head, and a long zigzagging ribbon trailing off the back of his head. A zipper acting as his mouth, and had purplish-pink eyes with slit pupils. He also had a yellow, brush-like tail. He was laughing darkly, which made both his mother and him nervous. Naruto shrugged his shoulders. I don't think I can handle him at this rate, and I am afraid I will have to exchange him. Don't be so harsh on him, sweetie. He may be a little naughty, but there is not enough to exchange him for someone else. You do not know him as I do, Mom. He likes to scare people, for no other reason than to amuse himself, and before you say that this is normal ghost-type behavior, he also loves to prank, which sometimes can be harmful. His mother frowned when she heard that. Have you talked to Professor Rowan about it? The blonde nodded in affirmation as he returned the ghost type in his Pokeball. Yes, I have, and he agrees with me on this. He has already contacted Fantina, the Hoenn City Gym leader, and says she may have a Pokemon for me too. Alright, if he agrees, but I still don't like it. We'll think about it later. For now, let's eat. It's already late for lunch. After having a nice meal, courtesy of his mother, the blonde decided to head towards Uncle Rowan's lab. He reached the lab few minutes later, and as usual barged in without knocking. They saw most of Professor Rowan's assistants were running around scared. He gave a light laugh and moved on. Hello, Uncle Rowan, have you talked to Fantina? He asked. Ah, Naruto. Yes, I have, and as I said, she does have a Pokemon. Naruto, ever the curious boy, couldn't help but ask. Which Pokemon? Is she willing to trade with me? Don't worry about that, Naruto. You are going to love the new Pokemon, as it's already here. All you have to do is place Bennett's Pokeball in the trading machine. Naruto did as was asked and placed Bennett's Pokeball in the trading machine. After the successful ding voice, they picked up the ball again. It now contained a new Pokemon, which Fantina sent and wanted to trade. He pressed the button and called forth the Pokemon. It was a bipedal Pokemon with a white body. Its body and legs seemed to resemble a nightgown or an oversized dress. Its green hair resembles a bowl cut, which covered most of its face. Its hair is split by 2 flat red horns, a large one toward the front and a smaller one at the back. The blonde was really surprised at what he was seeing. It was a Ralts. It was his first psychic type. The blonde picked the small feeling Pokemon and lifted it into his lap. Ralts at first was nervous and mistrustful, but relaxed after some time, when it could feel no ill intentions coming from the blonde. Few seconds later she returned the embrace. It's really nice, he stated. He then scanned the feeling Pokemon. The signature mechanical voice of the device called out. Ralts, the feeling Pokemon. Ralts is the pre-evolved form of Kirlia. It can use the horns on its head to read human emotions. Ralts rarely shows itself to humans, but may occasionally approach when it senses positive or happy feelings. This specimen is female and knows Move, Confusion, Psychic, and Double Team. It has ability Synchronize and hidden ability Telepathy. I'll go see Mom, she would be delighted to see her, he said, pointing towards the feeling Pokemon. Professor Rowan nodded and they said their goodbyes to each other, and Naruto left for home. When he reached home, his mother was still doing the dishes. Naruto introduced Ralts to his mother, and after she stopped cooing over her, they both finished the work together. The pink-haired nurse thanked her son and the blonde walked with all of his Pokemons towards the clearing they had, which was closer to their home. He called out every one of his Pokemons and introduced Ralts to the group and left them to play. The feeling Pokemon quickly took to the group like Psyduck to water and started playing with them. Naruto sat down against the tree and watched as his friends played, or just lazed around. He remained oblivious to his surroundings as a dark figure approached him. He so absorbed in his thoughts that the voice literally behind his head spoke. Welcome back, Naruto. He blonde was startled out his thought and jumped in the air and fell down on his butt. He was about to yell when he noticed it was his old friend. Damn it. Do you have to do it every single time we meet Darkrai? He exclaimed. As always, the Dark-type legendary Pokemon was amused with the boy's reaction and this time even let out a light chuckle. If that's the reaction I get, then yes, it said. Where were you when I was in Johto or Kanto. I followed you in the Hoenn and then to Johto, then I felt like a stalker, so I stopped doing it because I knew you were going to come back here, so I waited. The blonde sweat dropped at its answer. I will start my journey in few months, 2 at most. Do you want to come with me? No, it stated flatly. You are not powerful enough to be my trainer. When you are strong and experienced enough, come find me. I will be waiting for you. And with that it disappeared. Naruto heaved a sigh. He met the pitch-black Pokemon after so long, and it just left so early. After some time he picked himself up and motioned for his Pokemons to return. It would be night soon. Time skip, 1 month and 2 weeks later. He said goodbye to his mother, collected all of his Pokeball and left to see Professor Rowan in his lab. Today's the day, he would be registered as a trainer. It had been his dream for so long as he could remember. He entered the lab, still lost on his thoughts, and the moment his eyes saw Professor Rowan they lit up. Uncle Rowan! The Pokemon professor saw Naruto was on the door. Come Naruto. I have already done everything. All that is left is to give you an I.D and few more Pokeball. Naruto was nearly jumping up and down in joy. No pun intended. The Pokemon professor did rest of the formalities before he announced the blonde as a brand new trainer, and gave him a Pokédex, a few more Pokeball and... Naruto, he started. I have known you since you were a small kid. Your passion for learning has inspired me to travel and reach new height. You also have excelled in all of your tests, and obtained highest marks ever achieved. You are world's youngest person to attain the rank of field researcher. So I am giving you this to say congratulations and good luck for your journey. He finished giving Naruto another Pokeball. You want to travel through Kanto first, right? When the blonde nodded, he continued. The Kanto, or Indigo League it is more commonly known as, will start in 2 weeks. You will have to head to Professor Oak's lab if you want to register for the league. Professor gave him a slight smile. Good luck Naruto, and make me proud. Naruto returned the smile with a grin and replied. You can count on me. I will become the greatest trainer in the world and Pokemon master. Believe it. He finished pumping his fist out. Right, I have taken the liberty to book the flight directly to Kanto. You should inform your mother and leave. The plane leaves tomorrow morning. So be ready and good luck. The blonde nodded and left. He told his mother what he was planning on doing and left for the Kanto region. Few days later. Naruto Joy, the young trainer, left Professor Oak's lab. He had already registered for the Kanto League. But that was 2 weeks away before any gym will start taking challenges. So for that 2 weeks they did nothing but train. The Pokeball Professor Rowan had given him turned out to be a Turtwig. The tiny leaf Pokemon was a small, light green, quadruped Pokemon resembling a turtle. After scanning with his new Pokédex, it was revealed to be his eyes, feet, and lower jaw were yellow. The shell on his back had thick black stripe and a black rim. His Pokédex had this to say about him. Made from soil, the shell on its back hardens when it drinks water. It lives along lakes. It undertakes photosynthesis with its body, making oxygen. The leaf on its head wilts if it is thirsty. It has ability overgrow and shell armor. With the help of his older grass-type Sceptile, he had taught Turtwig synthesis, Leech Seed, Mega Drain and Giga Drain. Of course he already knew Razor Leaf, Withdraw and Bite. He was having difficulty training Ralts, with her being his only psychic type. But with the help of Sylveon he was managing it quite well. She already learned Calm Mind Hypnosis. But she was much too young to learn any powerful move like Teleport. During this period his Piku already evolved into Pikachu and had learned Thunderbolt, Thunder, Double Team and was working on Iron Tail and Dig. It was really difficult since he was an electric type. So after 2 long weeks of long and hard training, he felt ready to take on his first challenge. But first he was waiting for his Pokemon to be healed at the Viridian City Pokemon Center. He was patiently waiting for his younger Pokemons to heal when the alarm suddenly got off in the Pokemon Center. He saw 2 people, one girl and other boy, wearing some weird dress with R on it on the side of destroyed wall. One annoying motto later. What do you 2 think you are doing? He asked. There was no amount, or any trace of emotion in his voice. He knew people like Jenny and Prince, the 2 Team Rocket grunts. All they were interested was in causing mayhem and stealing Pokemon. They were nothing but a nuisance to the society. And he will take care of them. What does it looks like, kid? Asked the boy, Prince was his name, in really arrogant tone. We are here to catch any Pokemons we could find, answered the girl, who introduced herself as Jenny. Naruto gritted his teeth and pulled out a Pokeball. Oh, looks like the little baby is going to battle us, Prince said in a mocking tone. Let's teach him a lesson, the girl said, as they both pulled out a Pokeball. Go right on, they both said at the same time. Naruto scanned one of them with his Pokédex. Rhydon, the evolved form of Rhyhorn. It is known as the drill Pokemon. Its large horn gives it formidable attack power. Rhydon's horn can crush even uncut diamonds. One sweeping blow of its tail can topple a building. This Pokemon's hide is extremely tough. Even direct cannon hits don't leave a scratch. Rhydon, huh? He murmured before pulling out a second Pokeball. Go Sceptile and Swamped. The two Team Rocket grunts were surprised to see Pokemons not native to their region. Well, what do you know? This kid have some of the Pokemon we haven't seen. They would make a nice collection. Don't you think? Said the girl, Jenny. Quite right, Jenny, let's get to work, he said. Megahorn Rhydon, said Prince. The drill Pokemon charged, its horn glowing white and extended. Before it could connect, however, Sceptile charged Solar Beam, Swampert protect him with Hydro Pump. The forest Pokemon's bulb that were in his back started glowing as he collected the energy necessary for the attack, while his partner the Mudfish Pokemon attacked the incoming Rhydon with a super effective Water-type attack. Rhydon Hyper Beam. The second Rhydon charged the fabled Hyper Beam and fired just before he could be hit with Solar Beam. The two attacks connected and created a loud enough explosion for all three of the trainer to hide and seek cover behind something. Sceptile don't give them chance to recover. Leaf Blade. Swampert Ice Beam. The leaves on the forest Pokemons glowed green as he charged on the drill Pokemon. On the other hand, the Mudfish Pokemon charged and poured much power in the Ice-type attack. What he released was nearly a straight beam, as opposed to zigzag pattern of the normal one, testament to the amount of power poured in it. It seemed that his Swampert, his normally very docile and fun-loving Mudfish Pokemon, was pissed at their behavior. The attack connected with the other Rhydon, and it was immediately encased in ice with no chance of getting out, unless someone helped it. The other one was struck with Leaf Blade but held on. With one of their Pokemon down, the two grunts to Team Rocket reviewed their plan. This was getting out of their hand. They thought getting Pokemons from the Pokemon Center would be easy as there were no notable trainer in the immediate area. This should have a piece of cake. But this was getting ridiculous. Some newbie trainer was kicking their butt. Rhydon Earthquake, then Hyper Beam, called out the girl. Sceptile Jump, then Energy Ball. Swampert counter with your own Earthquake. The drill Pokemon stomped on the ground, hard, creating shockwave. Fortunately, the forest Pokemon jumped in time and Mudfish Pokemon countered the ground-type move with his own. The oncoming Hyper Beam was blocked and exploded when it came in the contact of Energy Ball. Let's finish this. Sceptile Leaf Blade, Swampert Hydro Pump. The both attacks connected. The drill Pokemon couldn't take it, and they fainted. The two Team Rocket's grunts decided to cut their losses and left, at the same time returning their Pokemons to their Pokeball. It was also the exact same moment Nurse Joy of the Viridian City came running to him. Are you alright? She was near hysteric in her questioning. Yes, I am. Are my Pokemons alright now? Yes, they are fine. I wanted to thank you for helping us out. Without it, they would have taken all the Pokemons for sure. The blonde just waved his hand in dismissal. It was no big deal, anyone in my position would have done the same. But I need to get going now. He picked up all of the remaining Pokeball and left the Pokemon Center. Sometime later at Pewter City Gym. After walking for some time and training in between, the blonde reached the Pewter City. He checked in the Pokemon Center and called home before going to challenge the gym. He knew it was a rock-type gym and the gym leader mainly used Geodude and Onyx in a 2-on-2 match. He knocked on the door politely and got inside when he heard the sound which called him in. Who are you? Said the man with gruff voice. Challenger Naruto Joy of Sangem Town, the boy replied. Very well. I am Flint, gym leader of the Pewter City, and I accept your challenge. He turned around towards and asked one of his son Brock, would you mind being the referee? The oldest of, he didn't knew exactly how many siblings, and pulled out a green and a red flag from somewhere and went to the middle of the field. Alright, this will be an official 2-on-2 match between the challenger Naruto of the Sangem Town and gym leader Flint. Only the challenger will be allowed to substitute his Pokemon. The winner will be decided when they knock out all of the opponent's Pokemon. Do you have any question? When both the gym leader and the challenger shook their head in negative, he continued. Then begin. As the gym leader, Flint will call out his Pokemon first. Go Graveler. Graveler looked like a living bipedal boulder. It had a rocky crest about its small eyes. It had 4 arms, each with a 3-fingered hand. The blonde checked his Pokédex. Graveler the rock Pokemon. Rocks are Graveler's favorite food. This Pokemon will climb a mountain from the base to the summit, crunchily feasting on rocks all the while. Upon reaching the peak, it rolls back down to the bottom. Go Larvitar, he said as he called out the rock-skin Pokemon. The blonde knew he was close to evolving and needed the little push, which was the reason he decided to choose him. Graveler, start things off with Rollout, said the gym leader. The rock Pokemon starts spinning and rolling out, gaining the momentum, and charged the rock-skin Pokemon. Larvitar hardened then break. Graveler collided with Larvitar, but it didn't even faze him. Before his opponent could do anything else, he smashed it with his tiny glowing fist. The rock type was thrown back and struck the wall behind him, instantly losing consciousness. There was silence in the gym before Brock said, Graveler is unable to battle. Winner is Naruto Joy. Gym leader, please send out your next Pokemon. The gym leader stared at his challenger for a moment before he called out his second Pokemon. Go Onyx. The blonde once again checked his Pokédex and a mechanical voice called out. Onyx, the rock snake Pokemon. It tunnels through the ground which shakes when it raises its thunderous roar. It can move the ground at 50 miles per hour. I am sticking with Larvitar, the blonde stated. Onyx Rock Tomb. Large boulders appeared around the rock snake Pokemon's body and it hurled it towards his opponent. The blonde was calm. It was nothing he couldn't handle. Larvitar blew them away with Dark Pulse. Larvitar put his hand together, a ball of purple appeared around his tiny fists, and launched a beam of dark energy at his opponent. It destroyed most of the boulder, and the one that managed to get through the dark-type attack struck him. Fortunately, he was still protected with Hardened. Onyx Iron Tail. The large snake made of rock lifted its tail, which was glowing white, and struck the small rock/ground-type Pokemon. Larvitar was thrown back but managed to get on his feet. His endurance and willpower was great. The blonde frowned, he had to be careful. Larvitar Dark Pulse one more time. Larvitar once again used the Dark-type move and launched a beam at the rock snake. Onyx Dig. His opponent saved itself by making it go underground. The blonde cursed at this, he should have taught Larvitar Earthquake. Look out for it, Larvitar. Onyx used Bind. The rock snake Pokemon came out from behind the rock skin Pokemon, and wrapped itself around him before he had the chance to retaliate. He was squeezing Larvitar. His small Pokemon cried out in pain. Naruto gritted his teeth, this was getting out of hand. Larvitar tried to move your hand and use Brick Break. But it was all for naught, Onyx's grip was just too powerful for him to break out. Onyx threw it away and used Double Edge. The Onyx's body glowed gold as it tackled Larvitar. The small Pokemon was once again thrown backwards, and this time was struggling to get on his feet. Larvitar refused to back down. He had trained as hard as his trainer's other Pokemon, and was just as powerful as them. He would prove to everyone that he was not some weak Pokemon. With his willpower alone he managed to get on his feet. His body was surging with new kind of energy, and he welcomed every bit of it. His body glowed white and his form changed. He grew in size and started floating few feet above the ground. When the light disappeared there was totally new Pokemon in his place. Naruto was ecstatic. His Larvitar was always nagging him asking for more training so he could evolve but wasn't able to until now. No matter how hard he trained he just wouldn't evolve. He pulled out his Pokédex and checked out his brand new Pokemon. Pewter, it said. The hard shell Pokemon. Pewter is encased in a nearly indestructible shell and has enough power to topple a mountain. Alright Pewter, let's wrap things up here. Finish things with Hyper Beam. The hard shell Pokemon launched an all too familiar attack and it struck the rock snake Pokemon before it had the chance to dodge or do anything to protect itself. After the explosion, when the dust settled, Onyx was lying on the ground unconscious. Onyx is unable to battle. Pewter wins. As gym leader is out of usable Pokemon, the challenger Naruto wins. Flint, the gym leader, looked speechless for a moment before he congratulated the blonde on his win and awarded him with the boulder badge. Naruto was about to take the badge when a voice called out from behind. Hold it right there. Raksha Bandhan is a Hindu festival that celebrates the love and duty between brothers and sisters. The festival is also popularly used to celebrate any brother-sister like loving protective relationship between men and women who are relatives or biologically unrelated. It is called Rakhi Purnima, or simply Rakhi, in many parts of India. The festival is observed by Hindus, Jains, and many Sikhs. Raksha Bandhan is primarily observed in India, Mauritius and parts of Nepal. It is also celebrated by Hindus and Sikhs in parts of Pakistan, and by some people of Indian origin around the world. Raksha Bandhan is an ancient festival, and has many myths and historic legends linked to it. For example, the Rajput queens practiced the custom of sending Rakhi threads to neighboring rulers as token of brotherhood. On Raksha Bandhan, sisters tie a Rakhi, sacred thread, on her brother's wrist. This symbolizes the sister's love and prayers for her brother's well-being, and the brother's lifelong vow to protect her. The festival falls on the full moon day, Shravan Purnima, of the Shravan month of the Hindu lunisolar calendar. Significance. Raksha Bandhan in Sanskrit literally means the tie or knot of protection. It is an ancient Hindu festival that ritually celebrates the love and duty between brothers and their sisters. The sister performs a Rakhi ceremony, then prays to express her love and her wish for the well-being of her brother. In return, the brother ritually pledges to protect and take care of his sister under all circumstances. It is one of the several occasions in which family ties are affirmed in India. The festival is also an occasion to celebrate brother-sister-like family ties between cousins or distant family members, sometimes between biologically unrelated men and women. To many, the festival transcends biological family, brings together men and women across religions, diverse ethnic groups, and ritually emphasizes harmony and love. It is observed in the Hindu calendar month of Rava, and typically falls in August every year. Description and rituals. The festival is marked by the several rituals, which vary regionally within India. Typical rituals include: prepare for Raksha Bandhan. Days or weeks before Raksha Bandhan, women shop for Rakhi, the ceremonial thread to tie around her brother's, or brother-like friend's, wrist. Some women make their own Rakhi. A Rakhi may be a simple thread, woven and colorful, or a Rakhi may be intricate with amulets and decoration on top of it. Sometimes, a Rakhi may be a wrist watch or men's wrist accessory in the form of bracelet or jewelry. Rakhi in the form of a colorful woven thread is most common. Typically, the brothers too shop for gifts for the sister, ahead of Raksha Bandhan. The gift from the brother can be a simple thoughtful token of love, and may be more elaborate. Rakhi Ritual. On the morning of Raksha Bandhan, the brothers and sisters get together, often in nice dress in the presence of surviving parents, grandparents, and other family members. If the sister and brother are geographically separated, the sister may mail the Rakhi ahead of the Raksha Bandhan day, along with a greeting card or letter wishing her brother well. The ritual typically begins in front of a lighted lamp, diya, or candle, which signifies fire deity. The sister and brother face each other. The sister ties the Rakhi on her brother's wrist. Prayer, arti, promise, and food. Once the Rakhi has been tied, the sister says a prayer for the well-being, good health, prosperity, and happiness for her brother. This ritual sometimes involves an arti, where a tray with lighted lamp or candle is ritually rotated around the brother's face, along with the prayer and well wishes. The prayer is a self-composed note, or one of many published Rakhi poems and prose. One of the earliest examples of a Rakhi prayer is found in Book V, Chapter 5 of Vishnu Purana. It is the prayer that Yasoda says while tying a Raksha Bandhan amulet on Krishna's wrist. An abridged form of the prayer is: May the Lord of all beings protect you, may the one who creates, preserves and dissolves life protect thee. May Govinda guard thy head, Kesava thy neck, Vishnu thy belly, the eternal Narayana thy face, thine arms, thy mind, and faculties of sense. May all negativity and fears, spirits malignant and unfriendly, flee thee, may Rishikesa keep you safe in the sky, and Mahidhara, upon earth. After the prayer, the sister applies a tilak, a colorful mark on the forehead of the brother. After the tilak, the brother pledges to protect her and take care of his sister under all circumstances. The sister then feeds the brother, with her hands, one or more bites of sweets, desserts, dried fruits, and other seasonal delicacies. Gifts and hugs. The brother gives his sisters gifts such as cards, clothes, money, or something thoughtful. The brother may also feed his sister, with his hands, one or more bites of sweets, dry fruits, and other seasonal delicacies. They hug, and the larger family ritually congratulate the festive celebration of brother-sister love and protection. Last time on Naruto, best wishes. Onyx is unable to battle. Pupitar wins. As gym leader is out of usable Pokemon, the challenger Naruto wins. Flint, the gym leader, looked speechless for a moment before he congratulated the blonde on his win and awarded him with the boulder badge. Naruto was about to take the badge when a voice called out from behind. Hold it right there. Now the 6th chapter. Naruto vs. Water type. They all turned to see a woman. She looked pretty pissed off, and her brown eyes were filled with anger. Both Flint and his son Brock flinched at her look. Her arms folded over her breast did nothing but accentuate that fact, that she was angry. She came right in front of Flint and rounded him. Who gave you permission to give boulder badges to anyone? She asked. The gym leader raised his hand in a non-threatening manner, and tried to calm her down. "Don't be like that, honey. I am leader of this gym." "But that's not true," she said. She was about to continue, but the blonde interrupted her. "Excuse me, but who are you, lady?" he couldn't help but ask. "My name is Lola and she pointed towards herself with her thumb, "am the real gym leader of this gym." Naruto was surprised to hear that, but Brock was one to reply. "Mom, please, father is the gym leader of this gym." He tried, but his mother would have none of it. "No, he is not. He still haven't managed to beat me, so he can't be the gym leader. And you," she looked directly at Naruto, "will have to beat me to get that badge." The blonde gritted his teeth. He had just defeated one gym leader, but apparently that was not enough to get that damned badge. "Fine," he muttered. "Get ready." Lola proceeded to the part of field which was occupied by Flint not long ago, and Naruto returned to his place a moment later. After a few minutes of silence, she was getting impatient. "Brock, start the match." The boy gulped and immediately started the match, explaining all the standard rules and such. He knew better than to argue with his mother. It was again a 2-on-2 match. "Marill, I choose you." Using water-type Pokemon in a rock-type gym. The blonde's sweat dropped. "Pikachu, time for your debut." Brock waved both the flags and announced begin. Marill defense curl, then bubble beam. The small aqua mouse Pokemon first curled into itself, then let out a continuous stream of bubbles. Pikachu thunderbolt. The electric mouse retaliated with his signature move, the thunderbolt. The electric type attacked tore through the bubble beam and hit blue Pokemon. Even with the raised defense, it was a critical hit. But Marill managed to stay on its feet. Lola frowned. This was getting bad for her. She realized Marill was one of her new Pokemon, and it didn't know how to battle and was fairly inexperienced. If she uses long-range water-type attack, the blonde would just order his Pikachu to attack with Thunderbolt, and if she got closer somehow, the electric mouse was fast and one more hit would finish it. So decided the next best thing. Marill used Surf. The aqua mouse Pokemon created a huge wave and was riding it. Naruto's sweat dropped. I mean, seriously, he thought. She thinks using that kind of attack is a good idea against electric type. He sighed. He had to finish it. Pikachu Thunder. Pikachu collected a lot of electricity and fired it directly upwards, and it connected the sprinklers and blasted a hole in the roof. The water sprinkler system turned to life and water poured out from it. Naruto chuckled nervously. Hey, oops. Do I have to pay for it? Damn, could I forget something like this? All of the presents' sweat dropped anime style. No, it was Lola who answered. I was going to redecorate it anyway, so don't worry. Meanwhile, the surf continued on and hit Pikachu. The electric mouse was sent skidding back, out cold. Pikachu is unable to battle, Marill wins, and first round goes to the gym leader. Brock, being the referee, announced. I have to be careful of my surroundings, Naruto thought. Challenger, send out your next Pokemon. Shelgon. It battle time, said Naruto as he called out the endurance Pokemon. Marill, water gun. The evolved form of Azumarill let out a water gun aimed directly at his opponent. Shelgon, just charge and headbutt. The endurance Pokemon charged at his opponent, not the move, just running forward, and tore through the water gun with sheer physical power. The hit connected with the aqua mouse Pokemon, who fainted. Apparently it was too much for the small water type. Marill is unable to battle, Shelgon wins. Gym leader, send call your last Pokemon. Vaporeon, show time, baby. Everyone's sweat dropped at her words. Shelgon, focus energy. This caused both Lola and her husband to look more intently towards opponent's Pokemon. With the use of focus energy, its chances to connect a critical hit was raised. Let's test her a little. Shelgon, start things off with Ember. The fire-type attack did nothing but annoy the Bubble Jet Pokemon. Oh well, it is the only long-range attack I can use without revealing Shelgon's power. Vaporeon, Water Pulse. Vaporeon charged a concentrated pulse of water and fired at its opponent. Shelgon matched it with Dragon Pulse. It was matched or outmatched with Turquoise Pulse of Dragon Energy fired by Shelgon. Both of the attack, the Dragon Pulse from Shelgon and Water Pulse from Vaporeon, was returned back to its owner. The Bubble Jet Pokemon melted itself in water, which was there because of Marill's Surf, to protect itself. Oh no, you don't. Shelgon Dragon Breath full power and coated the whole ground. The Endurance Pokemon and the evolved form of Bagon released a huge amount of green energy. The Dragon Breath, sharing some of its properties with fire, evaporated all of the water present and forced the evolved form of Eevee to come out of hiding. The Bubble Jet Pokemon was more annoyed than anything else, and it showed in its face. Shelgon, keep up the pressure, headbutt. The evolved form of Bagon charged another headbutt, but this time Lola was ready for him. Vaporeon Ice Beam. The attack formed and hit, even before the blonde had the chance to call for his Pokemon to dodge. The super effective attack managed a direct hit. He gritted his teeth. She was good, but so was he. His Shelgon looked a little shaken up, but otherwise okay. He smirked. His Pokemon was called Endurance Pokemon for a reason. But his opponent was really surprised with the turn of events. What? She exclaimed. How could it get up from a super effective hit? Naruto smirked smugly. It will take a lot more than that to take him out. Shelgon Dragon Dance. The Endurance Pokemon stayed still, ironic that the dance meant staying still of the little dragon type. Lola frowned. That last more would surely increase its power. Vaporeon Ice Beam one more time. The evolved form of Eevee opened its mouth and collected its energy, and fired a beam of bluish-white color at its opponent. Shelgon Dragon Rage. The little dragon type fired a huge amount of fire-like energy directly at the incoming ice-type attack. The attack was obliterated and continued towards the Bubble Jet Pokemon, and an explosion of all the energies followed. Everyone covered their eyes. All people present there had an expression of disbelief at the display of power. Vaporeon got on its feet. It had managed to avoid the worst of it, but was still damaged. Its breathing was ragged and was wincing every now and then. At this rate, Vaporeon won't last long. I have to do something, and fast. Lola thought. Vaporeon Hydro Pump. The water type let out a strong jet of water directly at the dragon type Pokemon. Shelgon Dragon Claw. The little, in height department at least, dragon type Pokemon charged dragon type energy on his claws and ripped the oncoming jet of water in two. Now finish it with Zen Headbutt. The front of Shelgon glowed blue as it charged again. His opponent was not only damaged but cringed at the sight of him charging and couldn't move out of the way in time. The Endurance Pokemon collided with the Bubble Jet Pokemon head-on and after another explosion, knocked it out. Brock was stunned for a moment, and after some time announced, Vaporeon is unable to battle. Shelgon win, and since the gym leader is out of usable Pokemon, the challenger Naruto wins. The blonde and his Pokemon celebrated their first gym victory by cheering loudly. Lola happily presented him with the boulder, and the blonde proudly kept it in the case, which was given to him by his mother. Naruto headed towards the Pokemon Center once again and left the next day after all of his Pokemons were healed and rested. His next stop was the Cerulean City for the Cerulean Gym battle. He decided to take the long route and skipped NT Moon. He took rest at the neighboring city before he once again headed towards the Cerulean City, where his second gym badge was waiting for him. He did train his Pokemons in between, focusing mainly on Turtwig and Ralts. His Turtwig learned Sunny Day and Light Screen. Despite being unfamiliar with the psychic types, Ralts' training was coming along nicely. She had learned Light Screen, Double Team, and surprisingly enough, Magical Leaf. Naruto was mainly working on her strength of the psychic power. She was tasked to lift logs, stones, and virtually whatever he could find on the road with just her psychic powers. His older Pokemons were old enough to train on their own. A day or two later, he was in front of the Cerulean City Gym. He ranged the doorbell and got inside when he heard the come-in. Cerulean City Gym was based on water type, he figured. There was a lot of blue around. He introduced himself to the gym leader, Daisy. She was a blonde girl, with a pink daisy on one side of her hair. She had green eyes and was wearing pink dress. I'm Naruto and I would like to challenge Cerulean City Gym, he said when they both got inside. I accept your challenge, she said. The battlefield of the gym was a pool with platforms on it, for the trainer. This is official battle between gym leader Daisy and challenger Naruto, said the girl with violet hair. Ironically, her name was Violet. She was younger sister of the gym leader. This will be a 3-on-3 match, where only challenger will be allowed substitution. When all three of the Pokemon of either side will be unable to battle, the winner will be decided. Do you understand? She asked, and when she saw Naruto nod, she continued. Then begin, as the gym leader Daisy will call out his Pokemon first. Corsola, I choose you. With that, she called out the Coral Pokemon. Corsola was a small, pink, round Pokemon with branch-like growths on its back, which were similar to Coral. It had black oval eyes. It also had 4 legs and 2 arms. Truthfully, it really looked like a coral. He checked it with his Pokédex. Corsola, the Coral Pokemon. A combination of both water and rock types. It sheds and regrows the horns on its head numerous times. Corsola's branches glitter very beautifully in 7 colors when they catch sunlight. If any branch breaks off, this Pokemon grows it back in just one night. Pikachu battle time, he said as he called out the electric mouse Pokemon. Pikachu Pika, he said as he stood on the platform, facing the water type. Electric type, how very predictable. Lily, the second younger sister of the gym leader, commented. Everyone ignored her, however. You can have the first move if you'd like, she said. With pleasure, was his reply. Pikachu, start things off with Thunderbolt. The small electric mouse charged and let out a powerful electrical attack. Corsola Mirror Coat. The advancing Thunderbolt was stopped in its track when the coral Pokemon's body glowed with yellow-orange color, and the attack was reflected back at Pikachu. The little electric type looked unconcerned and didn't move an inch. The Thunderbolt was absorbed and he looked more vitalized. What? Was all his opponent could say. It's Pikachu's ability Lightning Rod. Any lightning attack directed at him would simply be absorbed and would help him. Of course, he couldn't handle a large amount of it. But that was left unsaid. She frowned. Corsola, Spike Cannon. She ordered the next attack. Pikachu get in close with quick attack then Iron Tail, he stated. The incoming spike-shaped projectile was dodged by Pikachu, who ran across the different platforms to get in close to the coral Pokemon. His tail glowed and jumped and swung at his opponent. Corsola, Iron Defense. There was a loud clang noise when Iron Tail struck Iron Defense. Corsola was sent skidding back a few inches. Pikachu, Thunderbolt once again. And the super effective attack managed to connect this time. The coral Pokemon was bathed in the color of electric yellow and cried out in pain. But it refused to give up. Corsola, are you alright? She asked. Corsola, was the reply. It was pained but determined voice calling to its trainer. Corsola Aqua Ring. 3 rings of water surrounded the coral Pokemon. Oh no! You don't. Pikachu Thunderbolt full power. Before Aqua Tail could take effect, Corsola was hit with the super effective electric type attack. The coral Pokemon fainted, unable to continue. Corsola is unable to battle. Pikachu wins. Gym leader, please send out your next Pokemon. Violet announced. Not bad. The female gym leader commented. But can you continue your winning streak? The blonde stayed silent, opted to just stare at her. Seaking, I choose you. She called out her next Pokemon. Pikachu returned, Jolteon, I choose you. The electric mouse Pokemon was replaced by lightning Pokemon. Start. Jolteon start things off with Pin Missile. The evolved form of Eevee fired yellow needles at his opponent. Seaking match it with Bubble Beam. The incoming Pin Missile were matched by Bubble Beam and both of them collided and created several small explosions. Jolteon Shadow Ball. Jolteon let out a ball created from Ghost-type energy and fired it towards his opponent. Dodge Seaking. The goldfish Pokemon managed to dodge the Shadow Ball. Now Horn Drill. Seaking's horn started rotating at a very high speed and it charged at Jolteon. Jolteon Thunderbolt. The lightning Pokemon let out a powerful Thunderbolt, but it was instead redirected towards Seaking's horn and it continued with its attack. That's Lightning Rod ability, now it makes things complicated. Jolteon Dodge. Jolteon made an effort of dodge and jumped, but the goldfish Pokemon redirected his own Thunderbolt towards himself, and being in midair, he couldn't avoid it. It was a direct hit. Jolteon, he murmured in pain. They were not known for their endurance, after all. Jolteon Discharge. The evolved form of Eevee released a lot of electricity and discharged all of it. He knew he was his last legs. Seaking's Lightning Rod ability could not help it any from the amount of multiple electric bolt that Jolteon released. The powerful super effective attack knocked out the goldfish Pokemon. Seaking is unable to battle, Jolteon wins. Gym leader, please send out your last Pokemon. The referee announced. The gym leader looked perturbed for a second before she smiled. Seaking returned. You are good, Naruto. It had been so long since I had so much fun. Jolteon returned. Thank you, Daisy. Now as for my last Pokemon, Horsia, I choose you. Well, since all of the Pokemon you have used were and is water type, it's time I use my own. Swampert, time to battle. The full evolved mudfish Pokemon looked impressive against his tiny dragon opponent. Swampert, this is the final match. Let's wrap it up and get the badge. Swampert, Swampert. His Pokemon agreed with him. Horsea smokescreen. The blonde smirked, but it was unseen behind the smoke screen created by the dragon Pokemon. Swampert Ice Beam. Daisy was startled when she heard Pain cry of her Pokemon. But how? She managed to ask. Swampert has very good vision, he can see even in the muddiest water. When the smoke cleared, the dragon Pokemon was covered in so much ice that it was practically immobile. The blonde took advantage of that. Swampert Hyper Beam. The strongest of the normal type attack struck Horsea without any difficulty. It was not only thrown out of the pool but also got stuck in the wall because of the power behind the attack. Horsea is unable to battle. Swampert wins. Since Gym Leader is out of usable Pokemon, the challenger wins. The Gym Leader returned her Pokemon, thanking it for the effort. Naruto, here, take this. This is the Cascade Badge. It is the proof of your victory in the Cerulean Gym. The blonde put the badge in the case, thanked the Gym Leader and her sisters, and left. Next gym was awaiting him. Turtwig, Razor Leaf. After defeating the Water-type Gym Leader and gaining the Cascade Badge, Naruto left Cerulean City. After his latest gym badge, he had his eyes set on the Electric-type Gym Leader, Lieutenant Surge. But currently he was having a one-on-one battle with some trainer, out in the open. His opponent was interesting to say at the least. He wanted to be the world's greatest Grass-type master, so chose Bulbasaur as his starter, and since Naruto's actually registered starter Pokemon was Turtwig, since he was the first Naruto scanned with his newly acquired Pokédex, he challenged the blonde to a Pokemon battle. Naruto jumped at the chance to battle, of course. The tiny leaf Pokemon needed some battle experience too, and since he was not only young but fairly inexperienced. The only Pokemon in his team that young was Ralts. Even Pikachu was older than the two of them. His other Pokemon that haven't actually fought in the battle before were Greninja and Sylveon. He just didn't get the chance to use them in a battle after all. But enough of the rambling, there is a battle going on. Bulbasaur Dodge. The seed Pokemon jumped left and right and dodged the incoming leaves. Now Bulbasaur Vine Whip. Two vines emerged from Bulbasaur's bulb to hit its opponent. Naruto smirked. Turtwig, bite on one of the vine and let the other vine hit you. After training with his older Pokemons like Sceptile and Greninja, Turtwig could take a hit from Bulbasaur. The tiny leaf Pokemon bit on one of the vine and winced when the other hit, but aside from that, he was relatively unharmed. Now Turtwig Giga Drain. The Grass-type Sinnoh starter caught his opponent, Grass-type Kanto starter, in green vine-like beams and started draining its power. The small wound that were on him healed. Bulbasaur, get yourself out of there, use your second vine to Vine Whip it. His opponent cried frantically. Fortunately for him, Bulbasaur managed to get free, but the damage was already done. The seed Pokemon was on the ground, panting. Turtwig Leech Seed. The tiny leaf Pokemon lowered his head and the sprout on his head released a brown seed, which he threw at his opponent. The seed latched onto the Kanto Grass-type starter and sprouted multiple vines which wrapped it up. Now Turtwig finished it with Energy Ball. Bulbasaur's frantic movement increased to free itself. Turtwig opened his mouth. The leaves on his head started to glow green as he formed the energy ball in front of his mouth. He was still struggling to form the Grass-type attack, and before it could destabilize, he fired it at his opponent. The energy ball exploded on impact. Bulbasaur cried out in pain but lost his consciousness soon after. I lost again, his opponent said in shame. Don't worry about that, it was a good fight. Naruto tried to console him. But what's the point if I didn't even win? The boy's eyes were red and the tears threatened to escape. The blonde sweat dropped at his behavior. Win or lose happens in a game, but what matters most is not giving up. They looked at him with big, hopeful eyes. Frankly, this was getting ridiculous and a little bit creepy. After all, Naruto was nearly the same age as him. Really? He asked. Yes, but never forget, your Pokemons are not your tools but friends, and you have to form a bond with them. You have to understand how they feel, how they react, what are their strengths and weaknesses. Then work with them to overcome them. He lectured and at the same time motivated the kid. Well, he too was the kid, but regardless of all that, he won and the other boy lost. Thank you, I guess, the boy said. He then took a deep breath and gave a genuine smile this time. Thank you again, and when the next time we meet, I am going to beat you. Believe it! He had already returned Bulbasaur to his Pokeball, so he just picked up the backpack that was resting securely against one of the trees and left after waving goodbye to the blonde. Naruto too smiled at the gesture and left for the nearest Pokemon Center to get his Turtwig to heal. After walking for some time, he reached his destination. The kind nurse took his Turtwig and returned him after he was healed. As the Nurse Joy of Hearthome City had said, no Nurse Joy aside from those in the Sinnoh region knew him. It was he don't know what, but this feeling was strange. He wanted to be known by all of them, but he was far from attention-seeking. At times his own thoughts confused him. Bah! He would worry about that later. It was time to train. He was focusing today's training on Ralts and Turtwig. They were the youngest and less experienced, so they needed a lot of work, and being the grass type, the tiny leaf Pokemon would be at type advantage against the electric type gym. Lieutenant Surge had the reputation of being strong and ruthless, so he needed all the training he could get done with them. Alright, time to work. And with that he spent all of the day's time working on his Pokemon's endurance and move execution. Turtwig, today we will be focusing on your energy ball. I noticed it was not stable when you used it against that trainer, he stated. The grass type nodded and started working on mastering the move. He formed a tennis ball size. He was struggling with making it bigger and maintaining the control at the same time. The evening passed in the same manner, and they did a lot of work and made some progress with their training. Naruto returned all the Pokemons to there, and as he was about to return Turtwig, a mechanic arm came out of nowhere and grabbed him. He squealed in surprise. The blonde was trying to figure out what was going on, but as he turned he found the source of his surprise. It was those Team Rocket goons again. Hello once again, twerp, called out female of the duo. Jenny. Yeah. Last time you managed to stop us from stealing any Pokemon from the Pokemon Center, but we noticed you have some Pokemon we have never seen before, so we decided to take them off your hands, Prince stated, grinning once he finished. So then, bye-bye. Tada. She waved happily and they both jumped on their car and took off. This time I won't let them escape, he mentally promised himself as he chased after the escaping thieves. I so wish I had a flying type right about now, was his thoughts. He quickly picked out a Pokemon and called his out. Sceptile, come on out. The grass type was already running along with his trainer. They are moving out fast. You have to chase them. Once they stop, I will be able to find you, don't worry about that. The forest Pokemon nodded and increased his speed as he gave pursuit. It was quite easy for him to follow in the forest area. Naruto never stopped running, as he followed the tracks left by both the vehicle and his Pokemon. Thankfully his Sceptile was thoughtful enough to left the tracks for him to follow, but the forest was ending fast. After some time he was beginning to get tired. He leaned against a tree and tried to get his breathing under control. He called out Ralts from her Pokeball. Ralts, I need your help in finding out Sceptile. Can you do that for me? The little feeling Pokemon looked unsure of herself. The thugs from the Team Rocket caught Turtwig and I sent Sceptile after them, but I need your help to locate him. Please, you have to at least try. He encouraged the little Pokemon, who nodded and swore to do her best for her trainer. She closed her eyes and started focusing all the psychic energy on finding Sceptile. Her trainer was depending on her, and disappointing him was the last thing on her mind. After a few failed attempts, the little feeling Pokemon managed to find Sceptile, who was not very far from where they were. The blonde thanked her, and they both started running towards the location provided by Ralts, the Pokemon riding on her trainer's shoulders. Minutes later they reached there and found Sceptile already caught in a trap and prisoned, and Team Rocket waiting for him patiently, with some other members of their team joining them. It seemed they called for backup and it was here. Naruto gritted his teeth. He never thought that the two grunts were smart enough to call for backup, or they were so high in the food chain that they would actually get one. Give me back my Pokemons, he exclaimed. Give me back my Pokemons, mocked one of the goons in baby voice. Hand over all of your Pokemons, kid, and you might stay alive to see your next sunset. There were a total of 5 of them. He was not worried about that, not one bit. But the problem was they had captured both Turtwig and Sceptile. So he had to be careful while dealing with the hostage situation. This didn't help Ralts at all, who was getting nervous feeling from her trainer. He carefully chose his Pokemons, someone who could work in teams and had not only speed but experience to take on all of them. Infernape, Greninja, Pikachu, Pupitar. Come on out and help, he said as he called out his powerhouses. He intently didn't call Swampert because he may need a backup too. The grunts of the Team Rocket were surprised to see the Pokemon they had never seen before. What kind of Pokemons are they? Asked one of them. Who cares, we are going to take them eventually, was reply from one of the grunt, arrogant as he was. Let's show him what Team Rocket can do. Yeah, came the sound of agreement from the rest of the team. Magby, ride on Victorybell, Bellsprout, I choose you, cried the whole of the Team Rocket in perfect sync. Magby, Flamethrower. Ride on Hyperbeam. Victorybell / Bellsprout, Razor Leaf. So the battle started with the small fire type giving out impressive amount of flames, followed by 2 Rhydon's twin Hyper Beam and the grass duo's Razor Leaf. Infernape counter with your own flamethrower, then Mach Punch. Greninja use Water Shuriken on the oncoming Hyper Beam. Pupitar use your own Hyper Beam to counter the second one, and finally Pikachu Thunderbolt the Razor Leaves. In a remarkable show of strength, Naruto's Pokemons countered Team Rocket's, and used attacks of their own. The flames from Magby was swallowed in whole by Infernape, and then the Mach Punch connected before the goon could even give it a command to dodge, sending the small fire type flying into him. The Ninja Pokemon countered the incoming Hyper Beam with his Water Shuriken, making it explode on the contact, while the Hard Shell Pokemon let loose a Hyper Beam of his own, overpowering the incoming one easily and hitting the opponent Pokemon, and lastly all of the Razor Leaf were fried by Pikachu's Thunderbolt. That's 2 down, 3 to go, the blonde thought. The 2 hoodlums recalled their Pokemons, gritting their teeth all the time. Greninja, don't give them the time to react, use Hydro Pump on the Rhydon. Infernape overheat Victory Bell and Pupitar Dark Pulse on Bellsprout, Naruto stated. The Ninja Pokemon let loose a powerful jet of water which made a direct contact with the Rock-type Pokemon, who fainted after being hit with the super effective move. Infernape, on the other hand, used his current most powerful move beside Flare Blitz, and it contacted Victory Bell, knocking it out, and finally Pupitar knocked out Bellsprout with his Dark Pulse. All of them recalled their Pokemon, but instead of showing signs of frustration, they were smirking. Even the previous 2 hoodlums were smiling evilly at him, which sent a bell of alarm in his head, but before he could even react, one of them opened his mouth. You may have defeated us, but your Pokemons are exactly where we wanted them to be in the first place. As soon as he finished his sentence, small prison cell traps came to life and captured all of his other Pokemons. Only Ralts, who was standing beside her trainer, was left. The blonde gritted his teeth. This was getting out of hand. First Team Rocket asking for backup, then trapping his Pokemons. He still had his Swampert, Jolteon, Shelgon and Sylveon, but Team Rocket didn't know about that, and he didn't wanted them to be caught too. Ralts was already out of her Pokeball, and she was the only one who could get them out of their traps, being psychic and all. Ralts, he began, without looking at her. His complete focus was on the front. Looks like only you and I are left. I know you can do it. Please help me. The feeling Pokemon nodded her head hesitantly, and prepared for the battle. Jenny, Prince and the 3 others, whose name he didn't even bother to remember, laughed at him and his Pokemon, who being shy was getting more and more nervous. Naruto gave her an encouraging smile. I know you can help me and our other friends they caught. Trust in yourself. She nodded and readied herself for the fight. Jenny pulled out a second Pokeball and called out another Pokemon. Fearow, come on out and take down this little weakling, she stated. Fearow was a large, brown Pokemon with a vulture-like neck and broad, large wings. It also had a long, pointed, pink beak, and a decorative red coxcomb on top of its head. It had shaggy feathers on the base of its neck and covering the upper portion of its wings. It was intimidating to say at the least to the small dual psychic and fairy type. Fearow, start with Aerial Ace, she said. The normal flying type took to the skies and disappeared with an impressive display of speed, reappearing very close to the little feeling type Pokemon. Ralts dodged with Double Team. Ralts created several copies of her and managed to evade the beak Pokemon. Now hold it with Psychic. Fearow was covered with Psychic, not allowing it to move even a little. Now Ralts Psyshock. The little Pokemon created a weird blue-colored beam in front of her and fired it at the trapped Pokemon, who gave a cry of pain but otherwise looked relatively fine. It will take a lot more to take out my Fearow. Now Fearow Feint Attack, she stated. The blonde was surprised with the sudden Dark-type move from the normally idiotic Team Rocket's normal-type Pokemon. It was a type of attack which could not be dodged, so he knew Ralts will have to take it. The dual normal and flying type took to the sky and feinted the attack, connecting it with Ralts, sending the small feeling type Pokemon on the ground. She gave a cry of pain and was struggling to even get up. She had to, for her trainer. Naruto ran towards her, intent on checking up on her. Jenny gave another evil smirk. Fearow Hyper Beam. The blonde's eyes widened upon hearing this. He saw clearly as the beak Pokemon charged the strongest normal-type attack and aimed it at his downed Pokemon. He was panic-stricken, his mind was getting blank on what to do now. He watched it all as the beam formed and coming, everything around him was slowing down, his mind focused on the incoming attack and his injured Ralts. He never noticed his eyes turning red with 2 black tomos spinning rapidly. In the end he threw his body in order to protect the small Pokemon. At the same time a blue-colored shield formed in front of him, taking the brunt of the attack, but the explosion was powerful enough to knock him around. He looked up from his position on the ground and saw Ralts was unharmed. He gave her a warm but pained smile. The feeling Pokemon was now openly crying, and his other Pokemons were clenching their jaws or hands/paws or both depending upon their body structure, frustrated at their helplessness to protect their trainer. At the same moment something changed inside Ralts. With the feeling of being powerless and helpless, she found energy surging from deep within her, and she welcomed every bit of it. She was willing to do anything to protect her trainer. And with this determination, she began to glow and her form was changing, she was growing. After the transformation was complete, standing in place of Ralts was Kirlia. It was a white bipedal Pokemon that was wearing what appears to be a tutu. It had green hair that reaches down to its shoulders, and 2 red horns looking like hairpins. It had skinny green legs with pointed feet and thin, white arms that had 2 fingers. She was glaring with narrowed eyes at the hooligans of Team Rocket. Her behavior changed completely and was in contrast of the normally timid Ralts. Her eyes glowed as she used Psychic on the prison cell, captivating her teammates, and destroyed them all at the same time. Team Rocket gulped nervously in unison as they watched the events unfolding in front of them. Kirlia raised her hands above her head, then bring them forward and released multiple glowing light green leaves from her hands at Fiero. The beak Pokemon took to the air, but the leaves followed it before finally connecting. The dual normal and flying type Pokemon fainted from the attack. It was at the time they heard police sirens coming close to them that broke them from their trance as they decided to cut their losses and escape. "Oh no you don't," Naruto said as he was standing up with the help of Infernape. Kirlia used Psychic and stopped them. Unknown to him, his eyes were blue again, though he was feeling a great amount of fatigue. He chalked it up to his first usage of Aura. Yes, he understood that he unconsciously used his Aura to protect both himself and his Pokemon. The Emotion Pokemon once again used her Psychic attack to stop the goons from escaping. Sometime later Officer Jenny and some other policemen came and arrested members of Team Rocket. Officer Jenny helped Naruto to her bike's sidecar and immediately took him to hospital, and his Pokemons to Pokemon Center to heal and rest. The officer thanked Naruto for his help and praised him for calling for help before confronting the dangerous and notorious Team Rocket, though she apologized for coming late and then left. A few days later he was in front of the Electric-type gym. It was intimidating to say at least, and by going with the reputation gym leader had, this was going to be his toughest battle yet. He was not scared though, he was as prepared as he was going to get. He pushed the doors open and entered the eerie-looking gym. Just by a single glance at the gym interiors, Naruto could tell the gym leader loved the electric type very much, maybe a little too much. Outside, the gym was decorated with electric symbol, various lightning bolts sprouting from the roof. Inside was much similar, a single bolt of lightning was in the middle of a side wall. He looked around and finally voiced, "Hey, anybody here?" Coming, came a feminine voice, the blonde to the side, and sure enough a girl, teenager, was coming with a boy of approximately same age. They were wearing pretty unique dress, to say at least. The girl was a redhead while the boy had black hair. They both were wearing army uniform pants with black shirts, in girl's case a top. The girl raised her eyebrow at him, looking up and down. "Why are you here, kid? Are you lost or something?" The blonde's eyebrow twitched at the kid comment but swallowed the annoyance. He politely bowed and introduced himself. "My name is Naruto, and I am here to challenge gym leader." They both openly laughed at him. The blonde's face was twitching up dangerously in infuriation. "Go home, kid. Do yourself a favor and don't come back until you actually grow up. You would be destroyed in seconds," snidely remarked the boy. Naruto's face was getting red with anger and embarrassment. It was not his fault that he was short for his age, he just hadn't hit the growth spurt yet. "What's going on here?" came booming voice here. Naruto looked up, a huge man coming towards them. The duo visibly flinched upon seeing him. "Who's the baby?" he asked, completely ignoring him. "I can introduce myself. I am Naruto Joy of Sanjem Town, and I am here to challenge the gym leader," the smaller blonde said with straight face. The older blonde laughed, just like 2 others had laughed at him. "You baby, think you can handle me?" he asked. "Sure, it's not like I can just turn down a challenge being a gym leader." Naruto didn't even blink, his expression remained the same. "So you are the famous Lieutenant Surge." It was more of a statement though. The newly identified Lieutenant Surge stopped laughing when he saw his face. "It seems I have to take him seriously," he thought. Until now the only challengers he had faced had been newbie, who thought they could handle everything and left crying when he plowed through them using only his Raichu, but this kid, Naruto, felt different. Like he actually knew what he was doing, which was good for a change. "I am ready when you are, kid. This would be a standard 3-on-3 match and only you would be able to substitute Pokemons, understand? Naruto nodded his head. But both his assistants looked surprised. It was not every day their boss took on someone 3-on-3, he was more 1-on-1 type. For his to go against his usual routine, it meant the trainer in front of them was something different. Lieutenant Surge could get a good read on people, it was one of his abilities he gained during his time at military. They made their way towards the battlefield. The girl decided to referee the match. This is a 3-on-3 battle between gym leaders Lieutenant Surge and Challenger Naruto Joy of San Gem Town. Only Challenger is allowed substitution. Are you both ready? She asked. Naruto and his fellow blonde nodded their head, signaling her to continue. Gym leader will choose his Pokemon first. The gym leader pulled out a Pokeball and threw it forward. With it came his first choice. Magnemite, I choose you. Excuse me? He said, looking at the referee. Can I call one of my Pokemon out so that he could watch and learn something from the match? He asked. The referee, teenage girl from before, looked a little surprised at the strange request. It's all up to the gym leader, I guess. Though he would not want to be distracted from a fight. There was a tick mark on Surge's head. I am right here, you know. He asked rhetorically. Well, you can call your baby Pokemon, as long as they don't interfere in the fight. Thank you. He really looked grateful for a moment. Come on out, Pikachu. He called out his electric mouse Pokemon. Stay here and watch how Master of Electric type fight. You might learn a thing or two from him, and he have a rate you. The little electric type nodded his head and looked excited on the prospect of watching a great fight. His opponent even has his evolved form to boot. This was definitely something he was not going to miss out on. Let's not delay it any longer, the smaller blonde stated, pulling out a second Pokeball, this time to battle against his opponent. Come on out, Swampert. And came out the Mudfish Pokemon, the water-type starter of the Hoenn region, Swampert. He had grown from the small little Mudkip to his giant, well compared to it, fully evolved form. You're from San Gem Town, Sinnoh, and have started from the Hoenn region too. Not bad, they are not common to come by. Just like looking at it, I can tell it had been raised well. But enough chit-chat. His demeanor changed suddenly and became serious. His assistants were startled by his unusual behavior. They were used to see their boss playing around with newbie trainer, but this was trainer he was acting differently against, and they were about to find out just what was different with this one. Magnemite Thunderbolt. With that command, the magnet Pokemon let loose a large amount of electricity directly at his opponent, who, while impressed with the power behind the attack, looked confident. The attack made a direct hit and a small explosion followed. Dust was everywhere. What a newbie trainer, using water type against electric master Lieutenant Surge. One of the assistant thought. It was not until the smoke cleared that he could see that the Mudfish Pokemon was unharmed. What? He mentally exclaimed. How's something like that even possible? Naruto was smirking from his position on the other side of the battlefield. He loved the shocked expression on their faces. Swampert is dual water and ground type. He is immune to electric type attack. But at the same time has weakness to ground and fighting type. He explained more to the assistants than to the gym leader, as he had proved himself to knowledgeable in Pokemon from different regions. Now my turn. Swampert bulldozed, then hammer arm. The Mudfish Pokemon charged at the dual steel and electric type, and then smashed his arms onto his opponent. The poor Pokemon fainted. Magnemite is unable to battle, Swampert is the winner. Gym leader, please send out your next Pokemon, announced the referee. Not bad, kid, not bad at all, Lieutenant Surge commented. But let's continue. Electrode, I choose you, he said as he called out his next Pokemon. Returned Swampert. The younger of the two blondes stated. Sceptile, I choose you. With this, his forest Pokemon was out, a twig in his mouth as he stared impassively his opponent. His opponent was grinning madly. He looked like a child, well, a ball-shaped child, on sugar high. You can start. Referee wasn't even finished when Naruto suddenly acted. Sceptile Bullet Seed. The attack that came from the Sceptile was surprisingly faster than the electric-type gym leader anticipated. And also the younger blonde changed his strategy, from first sticking to defense then going to offense to directly going to offense the second time. Electrode, protect yourself with Sonic Boom. The incoming bullet seeds were stopped by the Sonic Boom from the ball Pokemon, but barely. So not only his Sceptile is fast, it is also powerful. The electric-type gym leader thought to himself. This is getting interesting. Don't let up, Sceptile Leaf Storm. The seeds on Sceptile's back began to white before he released a barrage of light green glowing leaves and sent them spiraling all around with his opponent caught in the middle. Electrode, cover yourself with spark to protect yourself. The said Pokemon did as was asked and covered itself with blue-colored spark which protected it from the leaf storm. Naruto frowned. This was getting nowhere. Sceptile Sunny Day. The environment inside the gym immediately warmed as Sceptile used Sunny Day. Now prepare a solar beam, he said. Jump and fire, Naruto instructed. Electrode Magnet Rise. The ball Pokemon's body began to glow yellow and raised itself just a little and managed to dodge the attack, narrowly dodging. But the resulting explosion covered everything from view. Naruto closed his eyes and smirked, which was hidden from the rest because of the dust. Sceptile Leaf Blade just in front of you but a little below. The forest Pokemon did as was asked and made a direct hit with the electric ball Pokemon. But how? Lieutenant Sure exclaimed. You should be unable to tell exactly where Electrode was. Naruto was smiling. It worked. I purposely had Sceptile jump and fire the solar beam aimed below, which I knew you would dodge, creating a dust cover. But I have the ability to sense aura, which I must admit I learned about recently, and have been experimenting ever since. So I could tell exactly where Electrode was, he said, as he finished his explanation. Sceptile finished it with Leaf Blade. The grass-type starter of Hoenn charged at his opponent, the leaves on his hand glowing as he intended to finish the match with this move. Sorry Electrode, but explosion. The down Pokemon followed his trainer's command and glowed brightly before exploding. Sceptile no! Naruto exclaimed. But it was already too late to stop. When the dust from the explosion cleared, both Pokemon had fainted from the resulting move. Both Sceptile and Electrode are unable to battle. This match is a draw. Both of you please send out your next Pokemons, referee said, but Naruto was barely listening to her as he returned Sceptile to his Pokeball. He was surprised by the suicidal move used by the gym leader. Raichu, you're up next, he said as he called out his third and last Pokemon. Naruto, who was thinking about using Pikachu for the next battle, chose a totally different one. Pewter, stand by for battle. The hard-shell Pokemon was looking as serious as his trainer. Raichu, Thunderbolt, and don't hold back. The electric mouse Pokemon gave a smirk as he released a powerful bolt of electricity aimed directly at his opponent. Naruto didn't say anything and let the attack hit, but as he predicted, it did nothing to Pewter. Pewter Dark Pulse. The rock and ground type Pokemon charged and fired a dark pulse at his opponent. Raichu dodge. Lieutenant Surge exclaimed, but even then it was caught in small explosion and took some damage. This kid. What is with this kid? 3 different Pokemons and 3 different strategies. Raichu Thunder. Raichu, who was gritting his teeth from pain because of the last attack, started collecting energy to unleash his strongest attack. Only a few seconds later he fired it at Pewter. Pewter Stone Edge. Multiple light blue rings surround Pewter's body. The rings began to glow white and form into stones the same color as his body. The stones were spinning rapidly and took the full brunt of the attack before being cancelled out. Raichu was panting hard by now, having used most of his energy in his last attack. Pewter Earthquake. The hard-shell Pokemon slammed his body on the ground. Raichu jump. But the younger of the two was waiting for the exact same moment. Pewter finished it with Hyper Beam. The Hyper Beam attack connected with the electric mouse Pokemon, sending it flying to the other side of the room, where it fainted. Raichu is unable to battle. Winner is Pewter. Since Gym Leader is out of usable Pokemon, Challenger Naruto is the winner. Gym Leader Lieutenant Surge awarded Naruto with the gym badge, which he silently accepts. The electric-type gym leader was so impressed with the boy that he gave him a luxury ticket to SSN. A luxury ship that would take him to the city where his next gym battle was. After getting a checkup for his Pokemon, Naruto decided to leave the city. Naruto was standing on the deck of SS, and truly the ship was as luxurious as was rumored. He was looking at the peaceful sea. His moment was interrupted when he heard something interesting from the conversation going around him. Have you heard there is powerful and dangerous fire-type Pokemon in Saffron City, a type of species never seen before? The boy said to his friend. Seriously, a Pokemon never seen before? Could it possibly be a new species of Pokemon? Who knows? Interesting, a new type of Pokemon, huh? And powerful to boot. I have to look into it, he thought to himself as the ship took him to the next city. What if neglected Naruto x Cynthia Pokemon? End here, and thanks for watching my video till the end.